always within the budget. Now, about the commissioners, the petition by Dumbi, you realize that these are the commissioners which conducted the elections that just passed. However, I beseech this House that normally we don't resurrect emotions when the country is already moving on. Despite the fact that there are members' petitions, and despite the fact that this is the preliminary stages, and we are giving the J-like committee to go and look into them, give them the opportunity to be heard. But when it comes back to this House, I would wish that we look at these commissioners as those also who are engaged, and you realize that it was a very competitive election, that now that we are in the government, I want my fellow colleagues in the other divide of the House that we look at this in a manner that will make this country run and not go back.
Honorable Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Speaker. I wish also to support the petitioners. Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, is on the matter of expenditure of money that may not have been appropriated by this House. Mr. Speaker, there is a tradition where most of the outgoing governments, either the national government or the county government, to use money in a very reckless way. Mr. Speaker, I think this has to come to a stop, and this petition will bring that one to a stop. And also not only expenditure of money, even employment of people at the time when the counties or the national government is coming to an end, or during the transitional period. Mr. Speaker, that one has to be stopped with immediate effect. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is on the question of removal of commissioners. Mr. Speaker, I'm in support of that. But most importantly, Mr. Speaker, I wish, as part of the contemplation in our looking into this matter, this question of recruiting the commissioners with the involvement of political parties. Mr. Speaker, we go to churches. We don't elect the bishops. We don't elect the pastors. But we keep on going to those churches for their prayers. Why are we involving ourselves on the selection of these commissioners? We need to have a commission that is non-partisan, that has nothing to do with parties, that has nothing to do with politics, that has nothing to do with contestants, so that they can be looking into this matter in a very fair way. Mr. Speaker, that is my submission.
Silvanos Osoro.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Yes, the Honorable Millie, what is out of order? Give Honorable Millie the microphone. There you are.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for indulging me. And I do apologize for raising this point of order at this point because our committee is sitting for vetting, so I have to actually leave. Mr. Speaker, we've just been served with a supplementary order paper, and my concern is that I've not seen Suba North in the approval of nominees to various constituency development fund committees. So I know it's coming. That's why I'm saying I was requesting that you indulge me now because I have to leave. So that's, Mr. Speaker, when it does come, if you could kindly consider it, Mr. Speaker, because we have multiple roles, and when that role will be coming, I currently have a role with the Defense Committee, but I cannot let the role of Suba North go because I'm in Defense Committee. So I'm just seeking your indulgence that when this comes up, if you could find out why, because we've already submitted the names, and it will be unfair for some constituencies to be considered and others are not. Thank you for indulging me.
Honorable Millie, the Honorable Mbadi is here. He will adequately represent you.
I have the floor, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
I have the floor, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Osoro.
Honorable Speaker, I equally rise to support this petition. Honorable Speaker, this is a house of order, a house that follows rules. It is within the rights of every citizen to petition this house on any matter that arises. And it's not limited to anything that even touches on politicians. Anything that any public member feels to raise with this house is free to do so. And Honorable Speaker, while I support that, we need to relook at this whole thing about expenditure and abuse of Article 223 of the Constitution. Just as my colleagues have said, Honorable Speaker, it has become like a norm that any outgoing regime creates and finds a way to make money, drafts a system of possibly withdrawing money from the public coffers without checks and balances. If this thing is not relooked upon, because it's not only limited to the national government, it's something that is a national government, it's something that is in the county governments, it is something that is affecting the common mwananchi. And we must relook at this thing clearly. And of course, Honorable Speaker, nobody should feel or look at this whole petition from our political inclinations, because it has nothing to do with target. I mean, it's a public matter from an individual of this country. So, Honorable Speaker, we must support every petitioner and then listen to them as provided by, to give them fair hearing so that we are able to get to the bottom of this. So I rise to support. Thank you.
Kalasinga Majimbo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this time. Mr. Speaker, first, I want to comment on the petition of Stephen Mutoro, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you look at that amount of money that was so misspent, Mr. Speaker, during the time some of us were in Senate, Mr. Speaker, we can now judge and know where that money must have been spent. We want the committee, Mr. Speaker, and the auditor general to do a clear report to us. Show us, Mr. Speaker, where and what projects were done with that money. Mr. Speaker, so that we can now know, sometimes to give a lesson, that in any case, any government is going to hand over to another one, or when we end, Mr. Speaker, the election cycle, we must have responsibility members, I mean, somebody to run the small of his office, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when you see the second petition that is talking about IEBC commissioners, Mr. Speaker, you can now see why, Mr. Speaker, some people are rushing, wanting to announce and declare some people as candidates, Mr. Speaker, for presidential when they know how much they have spent previously, 55 billion. So, Speaker, this is why I say, and I support, that never ever in this government should we have a handshake, Mr. Speaker. These are the proceeds of the handshake, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, we now go to the next petition. The member Said Buya from Galole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to read petition number 003 of 2022 regarding the gazettement of Hola Irrigation Scheme land to allow for the expansion of the county headquarters of Tana River. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the residents of Galole, Tana River County, draw the attention of the House to the following. Number one, that Hola Irrigation Scheme in Tana River County was gazetted on the 26th April 1963 and covers an area approximately 12,630 acres. Number two, that the scheme was initially used as a settlement scheme to settle thousands of Mau Mau freedom fighters and the residents of Tana River in general in the 1960s. That the geographical location of Hola Irrigation Scheme at the heart of Hola Town has over the years proven to be disadvantageous to area residents in view of the fact that it continues to block the much needed expansion of Hola Town, which is the headquarters of Tana River County. That in a bid to address this long-standing challenge, officials of the national government and the county government of Tana River and the National Irrigation Authority, members of parliament, and the National Land Commission and other stakeholders met in Hola Town on the 15th of July 2021 and mutually agreed to degazette 2,000 acres in the southern eastern parts of the scheme to facilitate expansion of Hola Town. That the meeting further proposed extension of the scheme's northern borders by a similar acreage of 2,000 acres so as to compensate for the degazettement. That the proposed degazettement and replacement of the southeastern segment of the scheme will secure the expansion of Hola Town and Tana River County in general through economic, social, and infrastructural development that is presently hindered by the scheme's current location. that efforts to have the matter by the relevant authorities have not yielded any fruit, and that the issues in respect of which this petition is made are not pending before any court of law or other constitutional or legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Public Petition Committee, intervenes to facilitate timely degazettement of the 2,000 acres in the southern and eastern parts of Hola irrigation scheme to facilitate expansion of Hola town and to facilitate extension of the scheme's northern borders by similar acreage of 2,000 acres, and makes any other orders deemed fit in the circumstances of this petition. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The petition is committed to the Public Petitions Committee. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Yes. Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. 1. The 5th and the 6th batch of nominees to 58 National Government Constituency Development Fund committees from the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board for the following constituencies. Number 1, Baringo North, Bomachoge Chache, Bomet Central, Chepalungu, Embakasi Central, Embakasi South, Kabuchai, Kajiado Central, Kigumo, Kiharu, Kikuyu, Kuria West, Lamu West, Matungu, Matungulu, Mumias West, Narok West, Nyaribari Chache, Samburu North, Samburu West, Shalu, Sigor, Sotik, Starehe, Turkana South, Uriri, Wajia West, Bomachoge Borabu, Bomet East, Borabu, Embakasi East, Mgwen, Fafi, Jem, Ogem, Ijara, Kimilili, Kisumu East, Kitui West, Kitutu Chache, Kitutu Masaba, Lari, Luanda, Lurambi, Malindi, Madare, Madera, Mbooni, Nambale, North Mugirango, Olkalau, Saku, Samburu East, Suba North, Tetu, Thika Town, Tigania West, Ugenya, and Westlands. Number 2, Honorable Speaker, the revised list of nominees for the following constituencies from the National Government Development Fund Board. 1 is Lamu East, Dadaab, and Kitui Central. Number 3, Honorable Speaker, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements of the Baringo Central constituency for the year ended 30th June 2021 and the certificate therein. Number 4, the report of the Auditor General and financial statements of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2019 and the certificates therein. 1, Sotik. 2, Kacheliba. 3, Eldama Ravine. And 4, Ndaragwa. Number 5, Honorable Speaker, the reports of the Auditor General and the financial statements of the following constituencies for the year ended 30th June 2020 and the certificates therein. 1, Chepalungu. 2, Chesumei. 3, Teso North. 4, Sirisia. 5, Matungu, and Embakasi South. Number 6, Honorable Speaker, the report of the Auditor General is Kathiani Water and Sanitation Company Limited, B, Jomo Kenyatta Foundation, Commission for University Education, Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, Kenya Medical Laboratory Technicians and Technology Board, National AIDS Control Council, Egerton University, Machakos Technical Institute, National Transport and Safety Authority, Kenya Ordnance Factories Corporation, Revenue Accountability Statements, that is the Kenya Revenue Authority, and National Crime Research Center, and finally, the Tourism Regulatory Authority. I beg to lay the papers, Honorable Speaker.
Haven't you left out some? My list goes up to Q. Or your list is different from mine?
There was an element of review, but we possibly could proceed. Tharaka Technical and Vocational College,
Yes.
University of Embu, and Tharaka University College.
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Soro. The co-chair of EALA.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. The report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members to East African Legislative Assembly.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Honorable Muya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that pursuant to the provision of Article 50 of the Treaty for the Establishment of East African Community and Rule 13.5 of East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly rule, this House adopts the report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly on its consideration of the names and nomination papers of the duly nominated candidates for the election as members of East African Legislative Assembly, laid on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 15th November 2022. I beg to move.
You move, or is it a notice of motion, or you're moving a motion? It's a notice, so you don't move a notice.
Sorry, it's a notice of motion.
Thank you, thank you. You just end up there. Yes, next. Understanding order that 3-1, the Honorable Deputy Speaker, you have a notice of motion? Go ahead. Give the notice.
Honorable Speaker, I rise under Standing Order number 33, seeking leave to move the adjournment of the House for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent national importance regarding to an increase in the prevalence of chemical pesticides in the country. Honorable Speaker, during the 12th Parliament, I presented a petition in this House drawing its attention to the increase in the prevalence of chemical pesticides in Kenya, which poses a risk to the health to human health, but also not only to human health, but also to the environment and biodiversity. The respective committee tabled a report of the petition. However, the resolutions of this House are yet to be implemented. There is still prevalence of chemical pesticides in Kenya, which pose a risk not only to human health, but also to our biodiversity. These products were classified as follows: 24 products that cause cancer, 24 products that are mutagenic, 35 products that cause endocrine disruption, 140 products that are neurotoxic, and they are causing brain damage in children, 262 other products that show clear effects on reproduction, toxicity, and are carcinogenic. Honorable Speaker, concerned that about 76% of the total volume of the pesticides used in Kenya have one or more active ingredients that are categorized as highly hazardous pesticides. Noting that these highly hazardous pesticides are a global human rights concern, endangering inter alia the right to food, health, as well as clean, healthy environment, and are regulated by international policy instruments to which Kenya is a state party with direct operational implications in the pesticide management. Honorable Speaker, about 44% of the total volume of pesticides used in Kenya are not allowed for use in Europe and other jurisdictions, but by some unexplainable double standards, are still allowed and permitted in Kenya. In fact, these pesticides that I have pointed out have been banned in America and Europe. But their laws still allow them to manufacture them for export to countries that are ignorant enough and foolish enough to accept these products into our country. And that responsibility, Honorable Speaker, falls on the Pest Products Control Board, who have failed to undertake their due diligence and to protect the lives of Kenyans. This amounts to criminal negligence on the part of the Pest Products Control Board. In the United States of America, the Superior Court of California awarded a farmer $250 million as damages for developing cancer as a result of the repeated exposure to Roundup herbicide, which is manufactured by Monsanto. The same product is available in Kenya, approved by the Pesticide Control Board. The court found that Monsanto did not make information on the dangers of the pesticides available to the public. The same Roundup is found in agrovets across the country.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, you've made your point. You are seeking to have a motion of adjournment.
Yes.
And the points you are making will come when you move the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You need 20 members to stand in your support. Honorable members, we have enough numbers, and I direct that 1 hour to the end of the sitting, the Deputy Speaker will be given time to move this motion, and then members will, she was giving notice. And for those who are not following, like the Honorable Mbadi, she is protesting the influx of harmful pesticides in our country, some coming from countries where they are manufactured, but their use in those countries is banned, but are dumped in Kenya. All right, now you are clear. So 1 hour to the end of the sitting, the Honorable Deputy Speaker, you'll move that motion, and it will be debated by the House. Next.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Questions? Yes, clerk. Yes, the Honorable Wangari.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 001 of 2022 under private notice to the Cabinet Secretary of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Number 1, what is the status of investigations into the death of Ms. Miriam Hanan Njeri of passport number BK151060, a resident of Gilgil Sub-County that occurred in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on 19th August 2022? Number 2, what steps have the government taken to facilitate the family to bringing back the remains of the 26-year-old Kenyan for a befitting send-off? Number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary state the measures the government has put in place to ensure the welfare of Kenyans working abroad, especially in Saudi Arabia? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, the Honorable Wangari. Yes, the Honorable Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, even as we proceed with the question and statement session, I wanted to bring to your attention that last week on Thursday, I did raise an issue here. And the issue was about the NGCDF. I've just been in quiet consultation with my colleague, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, a while back. And what he's telling me is really discomforting. So I wanted you to, before we proceed to the rest of the questions and possible statements, that we dispense of this very, very critical and urgent matter of the statement by the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah on the grave issue of NGCDF. Yes.
Honorable Ichungu, I had given you
Yes.
time to bring a statement. Are you ready with it?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I had indeed indicated to the Honorable Pio and I that you had given directions, and I was hoping you'd get to it. Honorable Speaker, I have engaged with the CS National
I
Treasurer.
haven't given you the floor. I just asked, are you ready with the statement?
I am not ready with the statement yet.
If you are not ready, can you do so tomorrow, 2:30?
In fact, Honorable Speaker, I wanted to request for your indulgence.
Yes.
We do this either tomorrow or Thursday, if it's possible.
Thursday,
that-
we have EALA elections.
And I can push the CS then to finish, because he had given a sketchy statement that I told him I was not comfortable.
I'll give you tomorrow,
Tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow.
Thank you. The Honorable Samuel Atandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question number 2 in today's order paper. And my question is by private notice. The question is directed to the National Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning. Number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary avail the evaluation report with regard to the acquisition of Spar Bank Limited, indicating the individual or company that conducted it, if any, and state the amount that was paid at the point of being acquired by the Mwalimu National Circle? Number 2, could the Cabinet Secretary state when approval was granted for the assets and liabilities purchase agreement between Spar Bank and Equity Bank? Number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary further explain the status of the bank's board membership and state whether it was legally constituted to conduct business, considering that the managing director and the other 3 board members had earlier resigned? Number 4, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether the Central Bank of Kenya carried out mitigation measures through funding of Mwalimu Sacco to meet the liquidation costs? And if yes, at what cost, and why the preference instead of funding the Spar Bank? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The next question will go to the member of Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to ask question number 3 of 2022 to the Cabinet Secretary for East African Community, the ASAOS, and the Regional Development. Number 1, considering that Kitui County and particularly Mwingi Central constituency has been experiencing prolonged drought over the last 1 year, what action is the ministry taking to ensure adequate relief food supplies to the drought-stricken residents? Number 2, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure adequate food supplies are filled under the school feeding program for both primary and secondary schools in the constituency to ensure learning goes on uninterrupted? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. To be replied before the Departmental Committee on Regional Development. The next question will go to the member for Njoro, Honorable Charity Chepkwony. I'll give it to the end of the session. The next question will go to the Honorable Rueda Obo, member for Lamu East.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to ask question 002 to the Cabinet Secretary for Road and Transport. 1, could the Cabinet Secretary outline the government policy measure being undertaken to develop marine transport in the country, and particularly in Lamu County? 2, what immediate plan has the ministry put in place to provide modern marine transport facilities, such as ferries, among others, to Lamu residents and tourists? 3, what policy measures are in place to facilitate private enterprises to develop marine transport facilities in the country and in Lamu County in particular? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. That question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. The next question will go to the member for Kabuchai, Honourable Majimbo Kalasinga. If he's not in the house, the next question will go to the member for Yatta, Honourable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I raise to ask question 004 of 2022 to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands. Question number 1, could the Cabinet Secretary state the number of persons classified as landless and commonly referred to as squatters in Yatta constituency? Question number 2, what measures has the ministry put in place to ensure that all squatters across the country, and in particular in Yatta constituency, are resettled, and state by when this will be done, including when they shall be issued with title deeds? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. That will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Lands. The next question will go to the member for Machakos County, Honorable Joyce Kamene. If the member is not in the house, the next question will go to the member for Kangema, Honorable Peter Kehongi.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to ask a question number 006, 2022, to the Cabinet for Agriculture and Livestock. Could the Cabinet Secretary outline the various taxes charged in the tea subsector, and in particular, those directly affect tea farmers? What policy measures has the ministry put in place to reduce the various taxes imposed on farmers and other stakeholders in the tea subsector? Number 3, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the steps that the ministry will take towards ensuring the reduction of said levies, particularly those affecting tea farmers? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. That question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. I will give a second opportunity to Honorable Charity Chepkwony, if she's in the house, and Honorable Joyce Kamene, if she's in the house. If not, honorable members, allow me to recognize Mokoma Ngoge, a poet and a writer and academic, associate professor of literature at Cornell University, and son of the renowned Kenyan writer Ngoge Wathiongo, seated in the public gallery. On my own behalf and of the House, we welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. Next order. Before we go to the next order, Honorable Caleb Amisi, your statement had been approved by the Speaker. Please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs regarding the deteriorating state of security in the country. Madam Speaker, recent events unfolding in different parts of the country show that insecurity has increased. Incidences of robbery with violence, mugging, assaults, and the tragic loss of lives being witnessed have spread fear, panic, and apprehension all over the country, especially in urban areas. Concerns have emerged on efficiency, capacity, and operations of the National Police Service in carrying out their mandate, especially that of ensuring the security of its citizens. Criminal activities have increased with declining performance of the national economy, and people in general have little confidence in the effectiveness of the law enforcement efforts in controlling the rampant crime. Kenyans no longer feel safe to move about freely within the central business district of Nairobi and other urban cities. Madam Speaker, it is expected that with the recent appointment of the Inspector General of Police, long-standing measures will be instituted to curb the crime situation. Madam Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs on the following. Number one, could the chairperson explain what measures have been put in place to cope with the rising spate of insecurity within Nairobi and in the country? Number two, whether the officers working to curb crime are adequately facilitated. Number three, what measures has the Ministry of Interior and National Administration taken to ensure the number of officers within Nairobi County and its environs is commensurate to the population? Number four, what measures have the Ministry of Interior and the National Administration put in place to alleviate the psychological effects caused by the enduring burden of stress to those who have lost loved ones on crime? And lastly, what strategies have been put in place by the Ministry of Interior and National Administration to address the increasing insecurity in the rural areas, including the rampant cattle rustling in the northern parts of the country? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. This statement will go to the chair, the Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs. I don't know how long you'll need. Where is the chair? Vice or a member to undertake? If there is no member in the House, the leader of majority, Honorable Protas, is that Honorable Protas? Are you a member? Give Honorable Protas the microphone.
Yes, Madam Speaker. I'm a member of that committee. Madam Speaker will respond in 2 weeks.
2 weeks' time. That is good. That will be taken in 2 weeks. The next chance I will indulge honorable members, because I know we are also doing a lot of vetting activities in the committee. So this question, I'll give the final chance to Honorable Chepkwenyi of Njoro.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to ask my question. And my sincere apologies, we are vetting today for our PSs. Allow me to ask my question, Madam Speaker, which is 001-2022. Could the Cabinet Secretary state when the government will lift the moratorium on issuance of title deeds in Nakuru, Kericho, Bomet, Narok counties, and specifically Joro constituency? What steps is the ministry taking to fast track the issuance of title deeds in Mount Narok, Mauche, Naiswet, Joro, Lare, Kiingo wards in Joro constituency? Madam Speaker, thank you, though I have seen they forgot to put one of my questions.
Honorable member, the question is as approved. This question will be replied before the Departmental Committee on Lands. The next statement will go to the Deputy Speaker. To the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Gladys Bose.
stand pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 179-14, I rise to notify the House by way of statement that the duly elected chairperson and vice chairpersons of committees following the recent elections of committees of the House. Honorable Speaker, on Thursday, the 27th October 2022, the House adopted the report of the committee on selection and on placement of members to committees of the House. Consequently, and pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 179, committees conducted and concluded elections of chairpersons and vice chairpersons upon their constitution within the 7-day period as approved by the Speaker. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, I wish to notify the House that all the departmental committees, audit and appropriations and other select committees have elected leadership as follows. Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs. Chairperson, the Honorable Gabriel Koshal Tongoya, MP. Vice Chairperson, the Honorable Dido Ali Raso, MP. Two, the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock. Chairperson is the Honorable John Mutunga Kinyudia, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Leonard Brighton Yegon, MP. Three, Departmental Committee on Blue Economy and Irrigation. The Chairperson is the Honorable Kangogo Bowen, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Marwa Kitayama Maisori, MP. Four, Departmental Committee on Communication and Information and Innovation. The Chairperson is the Honorable John Kiare Waweru, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Alpha Ondieki Miruka, MP. Five, Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations. The Chairperson is the Honorable Nelson Koech, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Major Retired Bashir Abdullahi, MP. Six, the Departmental Committee on Education. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Julius Kibiwot Meli, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Moses Malulu Ijendi, MP. Seven, the Departmental Committee on Energy. The Chairperson is the Honorable Vincent Musioka. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Aramat Lemanken, MP. Eight, the Departmental Committee on Environment, Forestry and Mining. The Chairperson is the Honorable David Gikaria, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Charles Kamuren, MP. Nine, the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. The Chairperson is the Honorable CPA Francis Kuria Kimani, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Ambassador Benjamin Kipkurui Lagat, MP. 10, the Departmental Committee on Health. The Chairperson is the Honorable Dr. Robert Pukose, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Patrick Munene Ndwiga, MP. 11, the Departmental Committee on Housing, Urban Planning and Public Works. The Chairperson is the Honorable Johanna Ngeno Kibiegon, MP, and the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Murwidhania Rindikiri, MP. 12, the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs. The Chairperson is the Honorable George Gitonga Murugara, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Ikomas Mwengi Mutuse, MP. 13, the Departmental Committee on Labor. The Chairperson is the Honorable Eric Muchangi Njiru, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Fabian Mule Kule, MP. 14, the Departmental Committee on Lands. The Chairperson is the Honorable Joash Nyamoko, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Jane Kihara, MP. 15, the Departmental Committee on Regional Development. The Chairperson is the Honorable Peter Lachakapong, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Mary Wanjoroge Wamaua, MP. The Departmental Committee on Social Protection. The Chairperson is the Honorable Alice Wamboi Nganga, MP. The Vice Chairperson is the Honorable Hilary Kiplagat Kosgei, MP. 17, the Departmental Committee on Sports and Culture. The Chairperson is the Honorable Daniel Sitati Wanyama, MP. And the Vice Chairperson is the Honorable James Gidhua Wamashukuru MP. 18, the Departmental Committee on Tourism and Wildlife. The chairperson is the Honorable Japheth Kareka Mbuku, CBS MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable John Juguna Wanjiko, MP. 19, the Departmental Committee on Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The chairperson is the Honorable James Gakuya Mwangi, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Marianne Chebet Keitany, MP. 20, the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. The chairperson is the Honorable G.K. George Kariuki, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Didymus Wekesa Baraza, MP. 21, Public Accounts Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable John Badi, CBS MP. And the vice chairperson, I stand corrected. I'll repeat. 21, Public Accounts Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable John Mbadi, EGH MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Nicholas Scott Tindi Mwale, MP. 22, Special Funds Accounts Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Fatuma Z. Mohammed, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Abdul Rahim Dawood, HSC, MP. 23, the Committee on Delegated Legislation. The chairperson is the Honorable Samuel Chepkonga, MP. And the vice chairperson is the Honorable Gishimu Githinji, MP. 24, the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Musa Sirma, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Kasim Sawa Tandaza, MP. 25, the Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Gadhoni Wamoshomba, MP. And the vice chairperson is the Honorable William Kamket, MP. 26, the Committee on Implementation. The chairperson is the Honorable Raphael B.S. Wanjala, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable Rose Museo Mumo, MP. 27, Diaspora Affairs and Migrant Workers Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Haika Lydia Mzigi, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable Simon Kingara, MP. 28, Committee on Regional Integration. The chairperson is the Honorable Wanjiko Muhia, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Sala Yakub Farah, MP. 29, Member Services and Facilities Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Stephen Karani, MP. And the vice chairperson is the Honorable Faisal Badar Salim, MP. 30, the Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library. The chairperson is the Honorable Daniel Ipuyu Nanok, MP. And the vice chairperson is the Honorable Kiragu Shege, MP. 31, Budget and Appropriations Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Ndidi Nyoro, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Mary Emase, MP. 32, Committee on Public Petitions. The chairperson is the Honorable Nimrod Mbai, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Janet Sitiene, MP. Public Investments Committee on Governance and Education. The chairperson is the Honorable Jack Wamboka, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable Naisula Lesuda, MP. 34, the Public Investments Committee on Commercial Affairs and Energy. The chairperson is the Honorable David Kosing, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Lillian Gogo, MP. 35, Public Investments Committee on Social Services and Administration and Agriculture. The chairperson is the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable Caleb Hamisi, MP. 36, the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Gideon Mulyungi, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable Gertrude Bayu, MP. 37, the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity. The chairperson is the Honorable Adan Yusuf Haji, MP. The vice chairperson is the Honorable Liza Chelule Chepkorir, MP. 38, the Public Debt and Privatization Committee. The chairperson is the Honorable Omar Shure, MP, and the vice chairperson is the Honorable the Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, MP. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the House is aware of the immense responsibilities bestowed on the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Chairperson of the Parliamentary Service Commission, the Chairperson of the House Business Committee, the Chairperson of the Committee on Appointments, the Chairperson of the Powers and Privileges Committee, and the Chairperson of the Procedure and House Rules Committee, among many other duties. In this regard, the Liaison Committee is therefore requesting, with your kind permission, to designate the following honorable members to represent the Speaker during the meetings of the Liaison Committee. 1, the Honorable Omboko Malemba, MP, to represent the House Business Committee. 2, the Honorable Farah Maalim, to represent the Speaker in the Powers and Privileges Committee. 3, the Honorable Martha Wangari, MP, to represent the Speaker in the Procedure and House Rules Committee. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, your office, Honorable Speaker, the Office of the Speaker will on regular and continuous basis be appraised on all the undertakings of the respective committees. Finally, Honorable Speaker, may I take this opportunity to congratulate all the honorable members who have been elected and vested with the responsibilities of being chairpersons and vice chairpersons of committees in this National Assembly. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, the Deputy Speaker. Honorable members, allow me to recognize the presence of Turi Secondary School students from Molo, Nakuru, seated in the public gallery. On behalf of myself and the House, you're welcome to observe the proceedings of the House. What is out of order, Honorable Mbadi?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I appreciate the communication from the Deputy Speaker, who is also supposed to lead Liaison Committee. But I was expecting to hear from her when the Liaison Committee is going to conduct induction so that we can start work. When we wanted to start our activities as a committee, we were advised that there will be need for the Liaison Committee first to have a meeting or an induction for those members who have never been chairs or who have no experience in some of these activities. That some chairs who are coming in for the first time in their entire life as chairs. Some are even the first-term members of Parliament. So when is this going to happen so that we can start work as committees? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I appreciate the question that has been asked by Honorable Mbadi, MP, EGH. I think I wish to confirm that the Liaison Committee shall be meeting starting tomorrow at 11:30. We will be meeting every Wednesday, but our inaugural meeting will be tomorrow, Wednesday, at 11:30, and then thereafter we shall plan the inductions and preparations for the work ahead. Thank you.
And honorable members, those in the Liaison Committee, we already have administrative communication channels for the meetings that can be done even after here. The next statement will be done on behalf of Honorable Owen Bayer, and it will be done by Honorable Paul Katana Kahindi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A request for statement regarding disbursement of National Government Constituency Development Fund. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44.2C, I would like to request a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on National Government Constituency Development Fund regarding the disbursement of constituency development funds by the Ministry of National Treasury. Honorable Speaker, the Constituency Development Fund positively impacts the constituents by ironing out the regional imbalances to achieve rapid socio-economic development at the constituency level, whereas the Supreme Court of Kenya pronounced its judgment on 8th of August 2022, declaring the Constituency Development Act of 2013 as unconstitutional. It is imperative to note that the pronouncement does not affect the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015. The National Treasury is yet to disburse funds as approved by the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board for bursaries, allocation, and development of the constituencies as mandated in the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act of 2015. In this regard, the National Treasury should note that the NGCDF Act of 2015 remain in force. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the chairperson of the National Committee on National Government and Constituency Development Fund as follows. Could the chairperson explain when the Minister of National Treasury intends to disburse the funds on the constituencies? 2, could the chairperson further establish how much of the constituency development funds budget is still unused in the National Treasury? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. This question will be going to the Committee on NGCDF. The Chairman, Honorable Musa Sirma, how long?
Madam Speaker, I think amongst the issues raised by the questioner will be answered by the majority leader as per the direction of the Speaker, and other issues possibly in the next 1 week.
Order, Member. You are the Chairman, NGCDF Committee. This statement is properly on the floor. How long will you require to answer that question?
Just 1 week.
1 week is the commitment from the Chair. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, resolution to hold a Thursday morning sitting.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the motion that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33B, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, November 17, 2022, commencing at 10 a.m. for purposes of conducting the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I think this is a no-brainer motion, and I hear the Honorable Junaid saying he's tired. I'm sure he thought it was an extension of time today. But it's a procedural motion to have a morning sitting when the Honorable Junaid is fresh in the morning. And we'll not begin very early. We'll begin at 10 a.m. This, as indicated after tabling of the report by the chair of the Committee on EALA, the Honorable Anjiko Muhia, we expect to hold our elections for EALA members on Thursday. And it was in the opinion of the House Business Committee that Thursday afternoon may not be enough because you realize in case there is a rerun, we may not have time to vote for all those members, and considering that it's the last day that we had in terms of the EALA calendar. So we will need to be here at 10 so that we can conduct elections up to late afternoon. And with those very few remarks, I beg to ask the Deputy Whip, Honorable Naomi Wako, to second.
Madam Speaker, I second. Thank you.
Order, members. I then propose that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33B, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Thursday, November 17th, 2022, commencing at 10 a.m. for purposes of conducting the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly. Is that the mood of the House? That I put the question? I put the question. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, approval of nominees to various constituency development fund committees.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move the motion on the Constituency Development Fund committees. And before that, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the people of Eldama Ravine for having voted me back after being out for 10 years. And I'm here again working for them very strongly. I want to appreciate the fact that it is not lost until you find it again and have a good finish. Madam Speaker, today I'm moving this motion pursuant to Section 50/5 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund and GCDF Act of 2015. The Select Committee on the National Government Constituency Development Fund of the National Assembly is mandated to consider and report to the National Assembly with recommendations. I'm moving the right now. Just 1 minute. Yeah, persons required to be approved by the National Assembly under this Act. Madam Speaker, that pursuant to provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5(2) and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 124 constituencies, committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 10th, 2022. November 10th, 2022. Madam Speaker, I wish to confirm that we have received 124 constituencies, and also we shall be tabling some later tomorrow. But I want to urge the members who have not submitted to do so. Junet, you'll get your money. Yes, we are now going only to debate on this issue of 124. The others will follow, because I know many members are not yet into this list. Madam Speaker, we would like to, on my behalf.
Honorable Tindi Mwale, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order because the chair has indicated that we have members who have not submitted. Yet we have members who have submitted, and yet the names have not come to this House to be tabled. Which criteria are you using to bring the names? Do we have batches of names, or are we going short of the printing papers? Why is it that some old and greatest constituencies,
Honorable Mwale.
like Butere, have not been tabled?
Order, member.
Thank you.
The chair will continue to move the motion. We will have the chance to debate the motion. Those who have issues will raise it, and will raise their issues as they come. So please, go on.
Madam Speaker, I'm moving this motion based on the 124 names, because there are others which we are still going to, which are under process. 70 and 31 will be laid on the floor of the House tomorrow. And I want to assure, Madam Speaker.
What is out of order, Dr. Pukose?
You know, Madam Speaker, Honorable Sirma has partially moved the motion as per our standing orders. Once he's moved to the last, giving us the as laid on the order, as laid on the table on the date, there are constituencies which have been listed. If he wanted to shorten it out, he should say as per the order paper. Yes, but now he's starting to debate the constituencies and starting talking of other constituencies which have not even been put on the order paper, which is unprocedural. So he has to make it very clear.
Thank you, Dr. Pukose. Honorable Chair, Honorable Musa Sirma, please move the motion as it is on the order paper and quote the 124 that are in the order paper.
Madam Speaker, I have already mentioned that I am talking about the 124 which have been laid. Even today, the majority leader has already tabled 70.
Order, member, Honorable Chair, please just hear us.
Yes.
You move the motion as
Yes.
is.
I know.
I know. You move the motion as it is. Yeah.
I've done it. I have read.
So don't tell us about the 70, the 124.
I have already moved the motion, Madam Speaker. They have other issues they are looking for. But, Madam Speaker, let me repeat so that they can listen. If you are not listening, listen now. That pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraph 5(2) and 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 124 constituencies of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 10, 2022, as appended in today's order paper, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Please continue. Now it's in order.
It is, Madam Speaker, what I would like to urge the members is to hasten their fund managers and the relevant committees in their constituencies to bring the balance of the names or the names from their constituencies so that we may be able to move very fast together. Madam Speaker, I know there are some members who are still, who have submitted, but still their names have not been part of the 124. But I want to urge that by the end of tomorrow, they will be happy because everything will be done. And Madam, I would like to ask the House to approve the list of nominees of 124 constituencies for appointment and gazettement by the board as the National Government Constituency Development Fund committee members in the respective constituencies. I would like to ask Honorable Ochanda MP Bondo, who is a member of my committee, to second.
Honorable Chanda.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, as I rise to second this, Madam Speaker, let me make a few things straight. Number one, we are having these names here in batches because they were submitted in different times to the board. That's the first reason why these names are here in batches. So the first that are cleared by the board so far are 124. When names are submitted from the constituencies, there are criteria that are used. If you don't follow those criteria, chances are that there's back and forth between your fund account manager and the board. For example, if you don't nominate, if in the committee there is no disabled, you realize that delays a
what is out of order?
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Is the member supposed to, first of all, second, then debate? Because he has started debating and defending before seconding. And procedurally. Yeah.
Okay. Madam Speaker, you may want to guide this because I'm going to second even at the end of it. I'll be saying I second. So
he's making his comments, but he'll second at the end. Yeah.
I'm saying before I second, that was my first statement, there are these things that I want to make clear. And then I'll second in the end. So Madam Speaker, what I'm trying to make clear is this, that it is us, and that's exactly what my chair is talking about, it is us members that needs to hasten the process because the constituency, the board here in Nairobi, our NCGDF board, gets names not at once. They get them based on how they are sent from the constituencies. And this is going to happen not just for this alone, it is going to happen for many other things also, including the speed at which you submit your projects. It's going to happen the speed at which you implement your projects. Right now, there are questions we are asking about arrears. Arrears are issues that are now with the board based on some reasons that certain constituencies didn't do certain things as required in time. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, what I'm saying now, and this is coming up, including a question that has been brought by a member. And now my leader here is asking, where is the money? The money can't be there until these names are gazetted. And the gazettement process is exactly what we have started. So the 120 names are going to be gazetted, and maybe they may be gazetted ahead of the others. So what we are trying to say is,
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Junet, order. 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 I am looking at the cards here and I don't see you. Please, the mic is still with Honorable Ochanda. Continue, Honorable
okay,
Ochanda.
thanks a lot. Kiongozi, just a moment, I'll make this clear for members to understand it. Say that we reduce the interruptions. What I'm trying to say is this. The process that we are in at the moment is for gazetting our constituency committee members. And it's one of the preconditions that we must have, such that when we are the issue of money comes in, you'll get money when committees are in place. So, to hasten this, what I'm trying to say, Madam Speaker, to hasten this, there is 124 that are in front of us now. There is 70 that is already tabled. They are going to be there tomorrow. We have a balance of 96. And remember, a balance of 96 constituencies.
Honorable
So,
Tindi,
members of Parliament.
Honorable Chanda, honorable members, I'm looking at, if you have an intervention, please put your intervention in your machine. Honorable Tindi Mwale, what is out of order?
Madam Speaker, is it in order for the honorable member to purport to speak on behalf of the CDF board? Because he was supposed to move the motion, not to start telling us how the money will come, why the money has not come. Is it in order, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Chanda, please second the motion.
Thanks a lot.
Please don't be distracted by the noise from the house. Just second the motion.
Fine, fine. What I was doing, I think, was going to be very useful, particularly to the new members, Madam Speaker. But what Tindi is talking about, there is not a single day that the board will be here to talk on themselves. That's not the order. That never happens. The board will never be here.
Honorable Junet, what is out of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I've listened to the second speaker, and he's a very learned man, Dr. Ochanda. Madam Speaker is talking like he's the Minister for Treasury. Madam Speaker, the Minister for Finance or the Treasury CS. Madam Speaker, once this committee is passed by this House and they are gazetted, it's assumed that this committee will start work immediately. Madam Speaker, they will start having their sittings to discuss the projects. It is not even the Member of Parliament who will bring projects. It is this committee that we are passing here today that will do the work of identifying projects and the work of bringing the projects to the board, Madam Speaker. Now, if we pass these boards, Madam Speaker, in this House, and they are gazetted, and there are no funds, what is the point of having them in office? They can't even buy tea for themselves. They don't have even money to do anything, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, can the chair and his second come very clear that are we doing an exercise in futility?
Order, Honorable Junet. Yeah. Order, Honorable Junet. This motion will be seconded and then open for debate, so that members can ventilate and raise the issues that you have. Please, Honorable Chanda, please second the motion.
Okay, that's fine. I think some of the leaders are trying to mislead the House, Madam Chair, so be a little bit cautious, because that's in the direction. So what I'm trying to say is this, that, no, I'm supposed to do as many statements, including the amount of time that I'm allowed to have when seconding. You can't force me to say that I second and sit down. That's not the procedure.
Honorable Chanda,
so, Madam Speaker,
you have 4 minutes.
I second the motion. And as I second the motion, I'm still insisting. I'm still insisting, Madam Speaker, that what we are doing at the moment is that we are getting these names in batches as a committee. And anytime we get them in batches, they'll be coming to the floor of the House. As of today, there are 124. Tomorrow, there'll be 70. And after that, there will be 96, I believe so. And immediately that happens, we'll be having the entire 290 constituencies. So what I was trying to say is that once they are gazetted, then we have a clear reason of insisting that we get the money with us. So I think that's exactly what I'm trying to do. But the onus is with the chair and the committee, that particularly the questions that are being raised. When are we getting the money? And the chair is saying that this when we don't want to give these guys a space of trying to explain to us that it is you members who have not approved the committees. So what I'm trying to say is, can we go ahead and clearly approve the committees and insist on the constituents that have not brought the committees to bring them ASAP? Thank you, Madam Speaker. A second. A third time.
Thank you, Honorable Chanda. I now propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Section 43(4) of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015 and paragraphs 5(2) and 10 of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 124 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund laid on the table of the House on Thursday, November 10, 2022, as per the appendix on the order paper. The first chance to address this issue will go to Honorable Julius Olesunkuli, member for Kilgoris.
Madam Speaker, I wish to support this motion and to say that the names that have been presented have been thoroughly looked at, I'm sure, by the selecting authorities, and that we hope that this will now clear the way. Madam Speaker, there are two stories that seem to be here. One, and I listened carefully to my friend, the chairman of the committee, and his seconder, that indeed there is a need for this procedure to go through. We needed this committee in order for us to begin the exercise of actually actualizing the operations of CDF. And I listened to the undertones, the worrying undertones from my chief whip, Honorable Junet, as to whether this step will end here or it will actually end up in liquidation, or rather provision of the funds. Madam Speaker, it will be very important to listen to what the majority leader will tell us tomorrow, because that is very crucial. The people on the ground have done their part. They have selected members to the board, to the committees. And I realized, Madam Speaker, that when these positions were advertised, the bar was rather high, I must say, for this particular time. In the past, the CDF teams were not required to have such rigorous requirements that, as I saw these other ones we have selected today going through. We hope, therefore, that the government of the day will make sure that these committees that have been done very well will actually have a job to do. I kept on hearing today new terminology saying that the former regime, for me, Madam Speaker, the government has always been the same, and the people who have been running government have been running government for 10 years, and now we hope that they will continue doing it in very, very good faith. The people of Kenya are waiting for the funds of the CDF. I left Parliament about 20 years ago, and I'm grateful to the people of Kilgoris that have come back. And when I was here, CDF was not there. And Madam Speaker, we performed even though there was no CDF. But the amount of work we were able to do compared to what my successors later did was quite small. CDF has really made a difference. Even though it has so many enemies in this particular time, I must say that this is the fund that has actually helped the people of Kenya. And I'm always very surprised that even those who went to court to oppose CDF are saying that this is a noble fund and that nobody is arguing against its nobility. If therefore it is a noble fund, and if therefore it's a useful fund, how can the law of Kenya find such a noble thing to be unconstitutional? How can it be unconstitutional if the people of Kenya want it? And the people of Kenya, as the Constitution says, are sovereign. This Constitution that we are talking about, the 2010 Constitution, has created these offices, has created these funds by letting the people of the members of parliament pass the law that is necessary to effect it. I find that it is really a bad thing, in bad faith, for anybody who has seen the good work of CDF to say today that it is not constitutional. I want to urge the honorable members, particularly those of you who are in government, to ensure that the National Treasury disburses the funds when we have gazetted this team. Do not bring us around in circles again and say there was another full stop or another comma that was not made. The gazettement of the committees should be sufficient to be able to say that we now are ready to receive our funds. And we are also looking forward to seeing the auditors' reports when they come, so that we ensure that these funds were always used well, because in going forward, we will oversight the use of CDF so that it can give our people value for money. So, Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you. Minority Whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand to support the motion, but with a very heavy heart. Madam Speaker, we should not be, as a house, we should not be doing an exercise in futility. You can see very well that there is a very serious conspiracy against the CDF in this country, especially by the executive and now by the judiciary. Madam Speaker, this is a fund that has transformed people's lives in this country. I was in my constituency over this weekend, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, people don't have money to go to school. Children don't have school fees. And schools are returning them back to their homes, Madam Speaker. Where do you want them to go? The government is not giving them money to go to school. There is no bursary. The counties that we are being told these funds should be channeled through are not giving bursary to children. The only source that they had of getting school fees is the Constituency Development Fund. You can see the list that have been tabled here by the chairman of the CDF committee, Honorable Sirma. There is no single name of a member of parliament in those committees. You do not hear that Honorable Junet Mohammed is a member of the Suna East Constituency Fund Committee. I expected him to say that. He was reading names of ordinary Kenyans, ordinary people, residents of that constituency, who have come together, elected themselves as members of this committee, these committees that have been brought to this house, so that they can administer funds that come to them from the national government for the benefit of the society that live in those constituencies. Madam Speaker, if we pass this list now, as we are doing here, because to me, I'm really worried. The next step is to gazette them. Parliament will send the names for gazettement. In a day or 2 days' time, the gazette notice will come out. These committees are expected to work. Their work is to administer the national government's constituency development fund. If the money is not there, what is the point of gazetting them? What are they going to do? They don't have even money to hold a first meeting. They don't have even money to buy a cup of water for themselves so that they can do the meetings. Madam Speaker, if this is not frustrating the work or the benefits that are for the people of this country, how else can you describe it? These committees, now, there is a ruling, I'm told, from the Supreme Court that declared CDF to be illegal or unconstitutional. But we are discussing here the financial year 2022-2023. We can discuss those illegalities in the next financial year, and we will see how to rectify it constitutionally, because we are the law-making body in this country. No any other organ can make laws in this country or can do anything about it. So why is the funds that have accrued, the balances that have remained before, or the money for this financial year be disbursed even to the constituencies whose committees have been gazetted? Their committees, I'm sure Honorable Bokose is one of the most effective members of parliament in this house. I'm sure his committee was gazetted long way ago. I am sure. Why can money go to NDB's constituency then, as we continue debating and passing the remaining constituencies? Madam Speaker, as far as I'm concerned, the only money that comes from national government that I am sure is of benefit or beneficial to the people of Kenya is the national government constituency development money. You can say anything you want. People like abusing members of parliament. People like tarnishing their names. You will never see a member of parliament sitting in a committee of CDF discussing CDF funds. But you will see many people in many constituencies, in all constituencies, that have benefited from the CDF funds, either in terms of bursary or building of schools, building of classrooms, building of dining halls, building of roads leading to schools, all kinds of things, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, it is my humble request, that monies should be disbursed so that these committees can start working as fast as yesterday, Madam Speaker. People are really suffering. When you see the news nowadays, you will see counties just lamenting that they have not received their funding from the national government. But this one is one fund that has the least administrative cost in this country. Over 90% of money is disbursed through this fund reach the people of Kenya directly. It touches the lives of people in this country, Madam Speaker. So why I am talking like this is because I don't want to be seen, or I don't want Parliament to be seen to be engaging in an exercise that will not bear fruits. Once we pass this motion today, once these committees are gazetted, then monies must follow. Monies must go down to the countryside. Monies must go to the constituencies so that these committees can function, children can go back to school, schools can get... Now, there's a big problem in this country as we speak today. This thing called what? CBC. Children are moving from lower school to senior school or whatever it's called, upper school. As we went to 844, so this grade something, Madam Speaker. There are no classrooms. Those children are supposed to attend those classes in their primary schools. They are not going to those boarding secondary schools where all of us went. They are supposed to graduate in their own primary school, from lower school from junior school to senior school. They don't have classrooms to go to. The only fund that could provide classrooms for them is CDF. You are not disbursing the money for CDF. Where will you get the classrooms from? Unless you want these senior school to be taught under trees in the whole republic. So people will realize that the work that CDF is doing is much, much bigger than even the amount of money that is disbursed by the government. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I want to urge the House to stand firm. We are facing a recess in the next 2 weeks, and we are going to interact with our constituents for the next 2 months, from December, January, almost 2.5 months. Those people require services. Those people require attention. Those people require help. Those people require their children to go back to school. So I am urging this House, within this month, those constituencies whose committees have been gazetted must be funded without any delay. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Minority Whip. Member for Molo, Kuria Kimani.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, I'm happy that this list has been tabled here today, and I'm happy that Molo constituency is one of the first constituencies where we are going out that we're going to approve our nominees for our GCDF committee that lead to their gazettement. Madam Speaker, you just acknowledged a few minutes ago the presence of students from Tuli Secondary School. Those students, Madam Speaker, came here with a school bus that has been purchased through NGCDF funds for the last financial year. Considering the humble background in which those students come from, Madam Speaker, ordinarily, those students will never afford to take a trip to come to Parliament, to take a trip to do a career visit to Kenyatta University like they did earlier today, Madam Speaker. And that therefore demonstrates just how important this fund is and how important it attaches directly to the lives of our constituents. As the other honorable members have said, it's becoming difficult, Madam Speaker, to engage with our constituents because everyone is asking us, Mheshimiwa, quote unquote, when are we getting bursaries? And then you have to tell them that we're not even sure when these bursaries are going to come. But Madam Speaker, speaking as a chairperson, Departmental Committee of Finance and National Planning, is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The reason why the CDF funds have not been dispersed in the constituencies is because following the ruling by the Supreme Court, Treasury sought direction from the Office of the Attorney General. And Madam Speaker, I want to inform this House that the Committee on Finance will make sure that we fast track the response by the Auditor General, we'll fast track the response from the Attorney General so that these funds now can be dispersed to our constituencies so that work can begin, Madam Speaker. In Molo, for example, we were able to transform our schools by making sure that now 90% of our day schools have complete and equipped science laboratories. Something that would have been a mirage, Madam Speaker, without this fund. Because comparing with the money that is sent through the Ministry of Education to our schools for infrastructure development, very few of those projects, very few of those monies are utilized properly, and the ones that are, the cost at which they are done is almost double that, is double the cost that is being done by NGCDF. Madam Speaker, you will notice, you will do a class in a primary school, and the county government will do a class, an ECD class. But if you compare the quality done by the county government and the quality done by NGCDF for the same structure, the difference is as heaven and earth. And you notice the counties will spend double the amount of money that's spent by NCDF. And therefore this, Madam Speaker, doesn't, just shows how important this fund is and the value for money it gives us. Leave alone, Madam Speaker, in addition to its contribution to economic development. Because when those constructions are going on in our constituencies, our contractors are local contractors. So they're able to get cement from the nearest hardware, they're able to get sand from the nearest quarry, they're able to get building stones from the nearest quarry. And therefore, Madam Speaker, you find that these monies are able to find themselves back to the pockets of 190 by the provision of these services, Madam Speaker. The issue about pending bills and how much the balances that have not been dispersed to our constituencies, we really urge Treasury, and we're not urging them, we are informing them, that those arrears have to be paid to our constituencies. There were commitments paid because unlike other government projects, NGCDF projects, before we approve them, we go for public participation, we do outline the projects that we want to do. We make commitments to the schools and to wherever else those projects are done, that these projects are going to be done. So when that money is not disbursed, it means that that this promise is not kept. And we end up being like all the other pending bills that exist in other ministries. And at least people know, or Kenyans know, that if an NGCDF project has been earmarked to be done, they are first of all 100% sure that's going to be done. And even the people that are given the task to do that work, they are 100% sure that they are going to be paid when that work is completed. And therefore, this seems to be, the arrears, Madam Speaker, seem to be aimed at, because this Parliament has pronounced itself on the issue of pending bills very firmly. Then the issue of delaying the release of these funds seems now to depict as, or this fund as like all the other government projects that delay in their implementation and delay in their payments. And with that, Madam Speaker, I really support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next chance will go to the member for Rangwe, Lillian Gogo.
Thank you so much. Honorable Speaker, thank you for the good work you're doing at the bench as you navigate through building our nation. On the matter of on the floor of the House, very well spoken by people who've spoken ahead of me. I only wanted to bring to the attention of the Honorable Chair of Finance and MP for Molo, who is my friend, that Honorable, it is important that you talk about not wanting to fast track. This should have been done because this is a matter that was raised even last week. Even the other week, the matter CDF was raised. And in 3 weeks' time, we're still talking about fast tracking. We honestly need this matter CDF expedited and money sent to the constituencies. We need this matter, Honorable Speaker. We need a situation where this money is already at the constituencies. The NGCDF, Honorable Speaker, is money that the government disburses and is felt by the common man. It is felt by the common mwananchi. If there is any work that even our youth do at the ground level, we have a problem with unemployment in this country. And when this money is at the constituency level, it employs our youth when they are doing the structures, when they are doing the roads, when they are working on the buildings, Honorable Speaker. And it also gives equity, Honorable Speaker. It is disbursed to constituencies across board. NGCDF funds is disbursed to every constituency. And I even like the idea that if there is a ward, that there is a constituency that has more wards, more funds will be taken to these particular wards. So I rise to support what is on the floor of the House, but at the same time, I want to insist, Honorable Speaker, that we should not be a House that just keeps talking. We talk, we even threaten we are going to stop the House business, but at the same time, we are just going round and round in circles when we are representing our people. Honorable Speaker, the matter CDF touches the poor of the poorest of Kenyans. From my constituency, Rangwe constituency, it is through CDF since independence that our schools have had to touch on buses. Very small schools that are not able to do funds and even have students in this school go for tours, go for scientific tours, go for music festivals, go for drama festivals. It is through NGCDF. And it is not matter school only. NGCDF is for schools and is also for doing work on administration. And we look at government officers, national government officers, Ngao officers. Honestly, Honorable Speaker, our chiefs don't have offices. For some reason, I don't know if the concerned department sends money, but our chiefs and assistant chiefs stay and work from very dilapidated systems. And these are government officers. And from where I stand, this work is done by NGCDF. As I speak, Honorable Speaker, Rangwe constituency had never had a face. And we are now having a modern, an ultra-modern sub-county headquarters that is done through CDF. So on matter CDF, Honorable Speaker, this is something that nobody is going to remove from us. For the reason that we are defending the people who we represent, who have delegated their authority to us to come and represent them here. It is on this basis, Honorable Speaker, that I still insist that this money should be dispersed. As soon as it should, the money should go, we need to do proposals, and we need to have work done. Matters bursary have been raised. Honorable Speaker, I represent a constituency of the rural poor. And if it were not for NGCDF bursary, very, very, very many children would not go to school, they would drop out. And we need this money, and especially that January is coming, to process it through, to have vetting, so that the rightful students who qualify may get this NGCDF bursary. So I support and I say, Honorable Speaker, that as much as possible, the chair NGCDF, who is also my friend and brother, go out of your way and let these monies hit the accounts of the various constituencies so that work and more work can be done. We want to be a working nation. We want to see a difference, Honorable Speaker. We want to be seen to be of concern and of value to the people who elected us. I want to quote the former Speaker of National Assembly, the Honorable Justin, who is now the Attorney General. He said that it is very, very difficult to find somebody behind this door being called an honorable member of the National Assembly. And the single most reason, Honorable Speaker, why we come here is for our people. So all energy and anything, any matter touching on our people should be our single most and serious agenda in this House. So I say, without fear of contradiction, Honorable Speaker, that this matter CDF, Honorable Speaker, we need to work on it and with the speed that it deserves, and that the money should go to the various accounts of the constituencies so that we can work in support even of the current government that wants to deliver to the people of Kenya. Thank you. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Goga. The next chance will go to the member for Bomet East, Honorable Richard Yegon.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'm also going to contribute on this issue of the NGCDF, whereby in totality, I want to say we have seen from the mood of the House and all the members, and even the people who are not in this House, I would like to say our members or our constituents are really waiting. I was over the weekend home. Everybody is pushing what is happening with the CDF. We want this thing to be effected as soon as possible. And as I said earlier, no one in this August House will for sure come back if we are not going to be given this CDF. Everybody have known and have come to become used to this very noble fund, which is being managed and supervised by the members of parliament. We are in total support of this. In fact, the most fundamental thing I was asking myself, or the question, is that if Treasury is not trying to release the funds, and we have this body called NGCDF, including the board and the management, or we haven't...
Member for Keses, what is out of order?
So much, Madam Chair. The member who is on floor has said that the members of parliament are supervising the CDF. This is a house of record. I wish to say that we don't participate, but rather we oversight a fund like any other oversight. Because this is what has gone on record and we have been misunderstood, and that is the reason even why the stumbling block we are in because of that. So the member should correct that one because it's on record. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my colleague, for correcting me, and I stand being guided also. Asante sana, and that is the position. That is the position, and I think thank you very much for correcting my utterances. And I would like to say, as I was saying, we have the NGCDF fund managers, which are all over our constituencies. And I was saying, if this fund is not affected, why are they still in office? Let them disband this thing if they are not going to give us these funds, because we want to make our people who has become used to this fund be happy with it, and we do all what is required of us by making sure that the checks reaches all these needy people. There are so many people who need this fund. I would like to say I support this motion of making the CDF and then constituting it into our constitution. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Next chance will go to the member for Kwanza, Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And on onset, I want to take this opportunity to approve the list that has been brought to this House. Is quite in order. And I don't think I have anything else to add because I don't know those members. Only the members of Parliament that have got this that know those members that are put to that are on the list. And therefore, I think, as most members have said, Madam Speaker, this CDF is not meant for members of Parliament. This CDF, as we all know, it's for the public. Everybody's crying. And what are they saying? They cry that let the CDF come because our students, our pupils are at home. In fact, I can say that the examination that are being taken now, what students are not going to do very well because they are sitting at home. And of course, those setting the examinations are here in Nairobi. They don't know what is out here. So the children are not consistent, and I can now take this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to ask the Ministry of Education, and they are aware of what is happening, to instruct the principals of the various schools not to send the children at home because they know what is happening today. As I'm speaking like this, when I was at home, I had more than 30 parents coming to my residence saying what we do with the children. And they wanted me to pay for school fees. Some of them have maybe school balances of whatever it is. Others have completed, but they are not able to get their certificates. So we want even to take this opportunity that as it is now, we are having this hassle with these busybodies out there because none of those fellows that are talking about the CDF know anything about the CDF. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we also want to take this opportunity to tell the principals not to send students at home. Those who have, like myself, normally I have this, what they call commitments. They should even take commitment as a way of saying they will be able to pay school fees for our children. So, Madam Speaker, that is one of the reasons because the busybodies out there are even suggesting that the CDF be devolved to counties. That would be disaster for this country. As you devolve CDF to the county, and already the county, in most cases, have not performed very well, it will be a disaster in this country. And therefore, I want to suggest here that we actually give, I think the leader of the majority has committed himself today, tomorrow. By tomorrow, we'll be able to get maybe some good news. But if not, then of course, we'll go ahead and do what we are doing. And we actually said, members have suggested that we then have a cost law to be able to force the government, to be able to direct the treasury to release the money. Madam Speaker, it's not for the members of Parliament. They're just part and parcel of the suffering Kenyans out there. And you go to see how much CDF has done in this country. And everybody has agreed that the CDF has done so much in terms of infrastructure, in terms of colleges, in some of the colleges, some of the administrative units, in my case, a lot of administrative units, about, I don't know how they are. Now, because of lack of land, we are now building classrooms in story buildings because we are not able to expand the land which is actually getting smaller and smaller. So, Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity and tell those busybodies out there that are running around saying, okay, at the CDF should wait, this is for the members of Parliament. We only oversight whatever has been done by the committees that actually were laid today in various constituencies. We do the oversight. They do whatever, they come up with the BQ to see how much it's going to cost, whatever project. Then after that, we look at it and say, okay, go ahead. But we don't take part in disbursement of the CDF. CDF is for the people and for the members of the public. We are now tired of this thing. Please, Whoever is there, let him release the money so they can be able to do other businesses. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to say I want to support this motion and look forward to getting good news tomorrow when the leader of the majority comes to this parliament. Asante sana. Thank you so much.
Member for Kilifi South, Honorable Chonga.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Kuria Kimani, what's out of order?
Madam Speaker, I'm raising, according to our standing order number 95. This debate, Madam Speaker, is just the approval of names of members of the GNGCDF committees in 180 constituencies. We'll have some 90 others to debate. And because this is the content, this is not on the content of NGCDF, I know we have an important motion on the approval of EALA coming after this. I implore on you, Madam Speaker, according to stand number 95, to call upon the mover to reply.
That is well noted, but I'll give Honorable Ken Chonga to finish.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker.
Wait, Honorable Member. After you finish, then we'll put the question on the issue raised by Honorable Kuria Kimani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've taken note of what my honorable member has just said, but also want to say that we remember there was a motion to discuss on how we are going to realign the NGCDF with the Constitution so that it does not fall into the same debacle as it fell. It was a motion that so many members wanted to contribute. One of the most unlucky people who tried but as successfully didn't get a chance to contribute is me. So if I'm allowed also, I will take only 1 minute. But first of all, Madam Speaker, I wanted to make a clarification.
Honorable Member, you already have the floor. You have 8 minutes to finish.
Thank you very much.
If you can finish earlier, the better.
Thank you very much. I'll actually take only 5 minutes. First of all, let me make a clarification, Madam Speaker, on this motion that was brought today. I heard the mover of the motion saying that he has presented 124, if I'm not correct, constituencies which have submitted the names of the board members who are supposed to be approved and be gazetted. The clarification that I want to seek, and I want to go on record on this matter, is that the names that have been submitted for the members of the CDF board for Kilifi South constituency, as per the supplementary paper that we have in hand right now, are different from the names that the board, the names that were submitted by the fund manager from Kilifi South. So I would first of all wish to seek an amendment to that list. We have we submitted our list far much earlier. The CDF board has them so that they can actually match what we submitted and not what is here. Two, Madam Speaker, the issue of NGCDF has been debated, discussed by so many members in this House, and how relevant the NGCDF has been to our people. What I want actually to bring to the attention of the House is that the CDF at its inception must have some historical background. There must have been some reasons to which members by then who were sitting in the House felt important to introduce the CDF. Indeed, some of us may not have been beneficiaries of bursaries during our time, but we saw the miseries under which fellow who are not who are coming from poor families were undergoing. It took me by surprise, Madam Speaker, when I heard the former CS Ukuri Atani saying that he is not, arrogantly, saying he is not going to disperse CDF funds no matter what. Honestly, we have been there. We are the custodians of the lives of our people when it comes to matters of, more especially, education and security. We have people who actually cannot even afford a meal So such a person, to tell him to afford school fees actually is like you are telling him you will take him to the moon without knowing how he's going to get there. The CDF has played a very, very vital role. So many families are actually where they are today because of CDF. Madam Speaker, I run a foundation by the name Kenchonga Foundation. My foundation is purely educating the young boys and girls who come from most underprivileged families, which even if you give them a bursary, they may not be able to continue with their studies. And therefore, it doesn't take anyone to go to school to understand what is going on in those villages. To be very honest, those who ruled NGCDF as illegal and unconstitutional, if I was given an opportunity, I would actually recommend the BIGO for psychiatric observation. Because what is going on the ground is real. We are not fighting for CDF to stay for the benefit of ourselves. It is for the posterity of the generation that is going to come. And indeed, there are so many families, even as we speak today, Madam Speaker, there are so many children who are at home. They are not in school. We have used our salaries. If the bursary we are disbursing is not enough, how can a salary be sufficient enough to take care of all the poor boys and girls who are out there? Something needs to be done, and something needs to be done urgently. The members of parliament are not going to be members of parliament forever. Time will come where they'll have to give way, either by age, either by being unpopular, either by death. But for the generations that are coming, we have the custodians on how they are going to be in the future. So, Madam Speaker, mine, first of all, is to request the amendment of the names, not only from me. If there is any other constituency that has been affected in a similar way, those amendments be done timely, so that the gazettement can be done timely. And two, the relevant bodies move very fast to make sure the lives of the poor boys and girls out there doesn't get jeopardized because of people who actually do not understand what it means to disburse the CDF to the constituencies. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me that opportunity.
I will now put the question as proposed by Honorable Kuria Kimani, that the mover be called to reply. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Mover.
Madam Speaker, thank you I want to thank all the members who have contributed to this motion, and I would like to take particular interest in the interest of members, and especially when we are talking about the bursary which is coming up very soon. The members will be at home for almost 2 months, and they need to work with their constituents using, what's wrong? When they will be moving around in terms of how they are going to improve the lives of our people. I would also like to thank the correction of a member that this committee is not a committee of members of parliament, but there is a committee who elect, because these people were elected from that constituency. And therefore, the busybodies who have always fought CDF may get an opportunity when we do a wrong statement to the effect that these are members selected by the members of parliament. I also want to ask the members that these issues will come to rest very soon, because those who have not seen their names in the 124 will be done in the next few days, and we should have all the names of the members who have been elected in the various committees.
for the Honorable Chonga of Kilifi, I would like to urge and every other member who sees any mistake in their list, which have been submitted by the fund managers, to write directly to the CEO of the CDF so that those names are amended accordingly, so that we do not have two names, one owned by the fund manager, another one owned by the CDF national office, which is here. Madam Speaker, this is a matter which can never be left to the busybodies to dictate how Kenyans are going to be poor. I don't know if one can imagine that we were still doing the same harambes. I came to this house, Madam Speaker, when we were doing harambes for schools. There was no CDF, and I want to thank our member who is no longer in this house, Engineer Karue, who did a good job in terms of bringing this CDF. And what we want is, we want this CDF to be even entrenched in the Constitution as by the bill which is ongoing in this house. And I want everybody, I want to ask everybody who is in this house to really support, and we go for public participation so that we defeat those people who would like to make Kenyans poor. Because anybody opposing CDF is a sadist who would like to have this country in a bad state whereby children from poor families may not go to school. Madam Speaker, with those remarks, I want to say I wish to move that we approve the list as appended on the list. I wish to move.
You moved to reply.
Yes, I move to reply. Thank you.
Members, honorable members, under Standing Order 53.3, and for obvious reasons, I would defer the putting of the question to another time. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, report on election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly.
Chair, the co-chairperson, Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly, Honorable Wanjiku Muhia.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And following the notice of a motion that I gave earlier in this House, I start to move that this House adopt the report of the Joint Select Committee on election of members of EALA laid on the table of the House on 15th November 2022. Honorable Speaker, East African Legislative Assembly is an independent legislative arm of East Africa, established under Article 9 and has a membership of 9 members from each partner state. Article 50 of the treaty requires that EALA members be elected by each partner state 90 days before the expiry of the term of the existing parliament. Article 49 of EAC treaty establishes that EALA, like many other parliaments, has 3 roles: legislative, oversight, and representation. Honorable Speaker, the 4th EALA is coming to an end on 17th of December, and it is from this background that the Senate and the National Assembly established a select joint committee of 7 membership from each house to deliberate and make a roadmap following the rules, regulation, and the treaty, and oversee the whole process of election of members of EALA. Honorable Speaker, with that then, the membership from this House were co-chaired by Honorable Wanjiku Muhia, myself, and Senate by Honorable Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, EBS MP. On 25th of October, this joint committee sat down to make the said roadmap and stipulated how the process would go according to the rules of East African Legislative Assembly Act, and according to the treaty, and also according to our constitution, considering that this election is also based on the constitution of each partner state. Therefore, the presiding officers, who are the clerks of both houses, National Assembly and the Senate, did place a Gazette notice number 13031 dated 26th of October to advertise so that interested candidates from the whole Republic of Kenya would make application. Honorable Speaker, on 2nd of November by 5 p.m., this advertisement was closed, and a total of 348 applicants had submitted their applications. Out of these, reconciliation was done because some candidates applied as much as 4 times through email, through clerk of Senate, through clerk of National Assembly. Even some candidates applied for the wrong applications, like one candidate was seeking to be a driver in EALA. And as such, our clerks did reconciliation and remained with a total of 287 applicants. Therefore, on 7th of November, on 9th of November, as per the rules, this was the nomination date, and the nomination day means that the party leaders, both coalitions and independent candidates, provide the names and applications of their candidate of choice, and this happened on 9th of November. 2 days are given to the public to scrutinize the nominees, bring in memoranda, any complaint, lodge any complaint at the place provided in a Gazette notice, that is the county hall, and this happened on 10th and 11th, and by on 11th of November, the presiding officers forwarded the documents to the Joint Select Committee. This included the complaints lodged by the members of the public. Honorable Speaker, the process allowed many independent candidates as much as possible, because in our constitution, every person is eligible for any election. A total of 42 candidates were shortlisted, 42 independent candidates. But out of 42, only one candidate by the name Duncan Wachira Degwa, who qualified then on that nomination date in terms of the documents that were required. In that regard, as this House knows that only IBC and political parties' office can identify if a candidate really qualifies to be an independent, the presiding officers did forward the names and the documents of this independent candidate to the IBC, and the IBC did confirm through a letter that this candidate also fell short of the threshold as per the Election Act, because his 1,000 signatures were not all accurate as far as IBC is concerned. Honorable Speaker, the party nominees faced the same test as independent, so the process was fair to all. And the IBC confirmed them being validly registered as voters, and we have therefore recommended that they be considered for the election, and the members nominated are as follows. The Kenya Kwanza Coalition, or Kenya Kwanza Alliance, there were 5 slots, and the rules require that 5 slots be multiplied by 3, so we required 15 candidates. This is to give the voters from both houses a choice to make in the election. So the 15 candidates nominated provided the joint committee through presiding officers by the party leaders of Kenya Kwanza Alliance are as follows. Number 1, Honorable Aden Abdikadir Oman. May I repeat that? Honorable Dr. Aden Abdikadir Omar. And in the report is indicated male and the ID. For interest of time, I only read the names. Number 2, Busaidi Salim Mohammed. Number 3, Charles Frederick Muteti. Reverend Charles Frederick Muteti. Number 4, Honorable Hassan Omar. Number 5, Honorable Iman Falhada Deko. Number 6, Honorable Iringo Cyprian Kubai. Number 7, Honorable Kering Zipora Jesang Krugat. Number 8, Kuko Jonas Misito Vincent. Number 9, Rebecca Lowoya. Number 10, Mwangi Godfrey Maina. Number 11, Nyambane Joel Okengo. Number 12, Honorable Sankok David, may I repeat that? Honorable David Ole Sankok. Number 13, Sheikh Yasar Ali. Number 14, Honorable Tom Lilian Chepto. Number 15, Anne To Cherono. Honorable Speaker, those were the 15 names presented to the presiding officers, later presented to the Select Joint Committee. And may I state to this House that the Joint Select Committee is not indicating that these are the candidates who have been elected. I am only indicating the next step after the nomination. Therefore, these are the candidates nominated awaiting election on Thursday at 10, as it shall be communicated by Honorable Speaker. The next category is Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition. These we had 4 slots, and 4 slots according to rule number 4 were multiplied by 3. Therefore, we have 12 candidates nominated, where members of this House and the House of the Senate should elect 4 out of these 12 members, considering gender, different opinion shapes, and special interest groups. So number 1 from Azimio la Umoja is Honorable Ali Fatuma Gedi. Number 2 is Honorable Bosire Timothy Moseti E. Number 3 is Honorable Diriye Abdullahi Mohammed. Number 4 is Honorable Kalonzo Kennedy Musyoka. Number 5 is Honorable Kega James Madenge Kanini. Number 6 is Honorable Kioni Jeremiah Gayu. Number 7 is Honorable Mugali Justus Kizito. Number 8 a school. Number 10 is Honorable Deti Helen Mweni. Number 11, Odinga Imgad Winnie. Number 12, Shabar Suleiman Said. Those are the nominees that we expect honorable members to come and elect on Thursday. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, may I request with humility these members to come, all of them. Let us not have members who will be engaged in different engagements. I know there is vetting of peers, but I'm sure the clerks will provide the names in order of whichever way they will choose, and members can be able to know that after 1 hour I'll be voting. So I want to request members to all be present, and that's why the motion of the special sitting have been presented today, so that we have proper planning, because the voting is the day after. So I reiterate that this committee have not nominated the said members, rather it has indicated the next course of action, which is election. As I summarize, may I request the members also to look at members who would be of great help to this country, who would raise our flag very high as a country, and members who would be trusted to take EALA further in the next 5 years. In this work, the committee made some recommendation because we observed several issues in the whole process. For instance, the committee feels that the rules are okay, the time frame is okay, but there is need to revisit and enhance the rules more in future, because there were some instances where we felt the joint committee was not fully integrated. For instance, during nomination process, some of the members, like myself, the other co-chair, were just attending the session out of our own voluntary mission. Otherwise, there was no indication that we should be in that process, yet we are the one who are holding the whole process. We also noted that in future, we want to be at par with other partner states. In other partner states, what they do, they provide a platform where all these nominees, including independent, if they were there, are slotted in Kamkuji, or they can stand at the bar, and they make a presentation so that these members know who they are voting, what are your name, where is your region, are you able to express yourself, do you have interest of the community, or rather, do you even know what job you are seeking? So in future, we shall be making that recommendation. We also made an observation, which is my feeling that at this time, these nominees should be sitting somewhere at Speaker's Gallery, because if time was allowing, I was going to read the mandate of EALA. Honorable Speaker, you'll be surprised that some of the nominees who are seeking this job, they just seek for the job like ordinary Kenyans, but maybe they are not even aware what is their mandate, what entails of EALA, or rather what are they going to do there in Arusha, or rather in East Africa. So with those, we recommend that we revisit these rules in the near future. We enhance the rules, possibly the whole region, and then we make the rules very, very friendly. And we also noted that Kenyans, time and again, they don't read between the line. There were some candidates who are indicating that as independent candidates, the advert did not seek the signatures. Yet, Article 99 of our Constitution does provide the requirement of a member of parliament. And the advert was very clear that for you to qualify, you should qualify to be an elected member of parliament. But many candidates, you can see we had 42, and only one had come with the right signatures, came without signatures for a lack of reading properly or such. So in future, this House and EALA may need to do civic education to the public, because this is also a job of mass interest. As you can see, close to 400 applicants had tendered the application. With that, Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much for providing this time, and I request my colleague in that subcommittee, Honorable Nanok, if he's in the House, to second. And Honorable Speaker, by way of request, may you give many members of this subcommittee to contribute in this motion. Thank you.
Honorable Nanok.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to second this motion. Honorable Speaker, it gives me a great privilege and opportunity to have been accorded the opportunity to sit in this committee to look at the processes, the election processes that are put in order to identify members of the Kenyan people who will represent Kenya in the East African Community Assembly. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we request the House to adopt this report on the basis that this is a committee of this House, and so we've been out there working for them and prepared a report. And basically, Madam Speaker, the report we are presenting to this House is that of guiding the election of the members to EALA. It's good to remember, Madam Speaker, that in the last Fourth Assembly, Kenya, as a partner state of the East African Community, delayed in presenting the names of their 9 nominees to EALA. And that occasioned a delay of 6 months to the calendar of the Fourth Assembly. So this time round, Madam Speaker, this House or Parliament of Kenya has gone ahead to try and fit into the program of East African Community so that we do not delay that process or that House again. And that is the reason why, Madam Speaker, the strict timelines that were put for the election of these members or the nomination of the members to be elected, we as a committee tried to abide by it. As you've heard my co-chair move, we started on the 25th of October, and by the 12th of November, Madam Speaker, we were almost done with that process of guiding the election process. And so here today, we are presenting to this House the names of the nominees that will be considered for election as members of the EALA Assembly from Kenya. That election, as we've been advised by the Speaker, will be conducted on Thursday of this week. And in the time, the calendar of the elections, Madam Speaker, these members will be required to actually be transmitted on the 18th of November to the East African Legislative Assembly. The names of those who will have been voted on Thursday, the 17th, will be presented on the same day, and on the 18th, these members will be proceeding to Arusha in order to, the names will be taken to Arusha in order to be ready to be enjoined with the others. It is also informed, we were also informed, Madam Speaker, that the rest of the partner states have actually nominated their members, and therefore they are ready. And this assembly, therefore the Fifth Assembly, will be in a position to actually take off within the required time. Madam Speaker, the process of nomination, identifying the advertisement of the positions to the public so that they can apply, followed the members of the public had only 7 days to be able to make on the 26th of October up to the 2nd. Then the calendar kept running without resting, without any gaps in between, where the members put in the application by the 2nd, the vetting process was undertaken within 1 week. Within the 1 week after the applications were put in, the parties were called upon to be able to scrutinize the names of the members that had applied. And Madam Speaker and the House, a total of 348 applicants actually put in their applications, as the co-chair said. Most of them under the party candidates, but a good number of them, I think 69 if I remember the numbers, were independent candidates. And it was unfortunate that some of the applicants, particularly the independent ones, almost all of them, were unable to meet the IBC threshold of independent candidates as required by law in this country. And that is how we've ended up not having one single candidate being presented to this House as an independent candidate. We've ended up having to have a ballot paper that is going to have 2 sets of names, Madam Speaker, and the House. Those 2 sets will be for the coalitions that are in this House or represented in this House. 15 of them from Kenya Kwanza coalition and 12 of them for the Azimio La Umoja coalition, where members of this House are going to have the opportunity to
pick or elect 5 out of the 15 for the Kenya Kwanza coalition and 4 out of the 12 for the Azimio la Umoja coalition, and that will give us our 9 members to be sent to the East African Legislative Assembly representing Kenya. Madam Speaker, as a committee or a joint committee of Parliament, we had the opportunity to interact with the rules that govern the elections of the EALA members, and some of the observations that we made as a committee, we have presented, or my co-chair has already presented some of those recommendations to the House, that it would be important that the Joint Select Committee, going forward in future, be given a more prominent role, Madam Chair, particularly so on questions of looking at the nomination lists right from the onset, so that they can appreciate what the members of the public who are applying are actually going through. Because the ones who are given that task were actually the presiding officers, who in this case were the clerks of the 2 houses. Madam Speaker, it is going to be important to give a formal campaign time to the members that are going to be elected. Otherwise, without interacting with those members, it might be difficult for the members here to be able to actually elect some of these members. And so, Madam Chair, going forward in the future, that platform needs to be considered so that the members of Parliament are able to elect from a point of knowledge. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to second and say the report is before the House, ready for voting on Thursday. Thank you.
Honourable members, I therefore propose the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 50 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community and Rule 13.5 of the East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly rules, this House adopts the report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly on its consideration of the names and nomination papers of the duly nominated candidates for election as members of East African Legislative Assembly laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Give this chance to Honorable Member for Bureti, Kibet, Honorable Kibet Komingoi. If not in the House, I will give this chance to Honorable Johanna Ngeno, Member for Emurua Dikir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me also this opportunity to weigh in on this particular motion, which is a motion on selection of members to the EALA. Madam Speaker, I wish to support the committee, and I believe that during the election, during that particular moment, Madam Speaker, when we'll be electing those particular members, we will have an opportunity to know who among us the 15 will be the 9, or who among us the 30 will be the 9 who will represent our country in the East African Parliament. Madam Speaker, I will still stick to the very issue which I raised before when we were actually appointing the committee to look into this matter, that it is time we do a legislation. And I wish to ask the chairperson, to look into the regulations and the rules that create the East African Parliament. I wish to ask the member to look into those particular rules so that we can amend the part of the treaty, because, you know, East African Parliament is a creature of a treaty. And of course, you know, we have the East African Parliament and we have the East African Court. Madam Speaker, when you look at those two institutions, those are institutions which are created from, or whose membership
are members of different states, which means that is a body that is higher than, or that is supposed to be superior to the bodies that we have back home. Madam Speaker, if you look even at the East African Court, Madam Speaker, the East African Court rules...
Order.
Pole, Mr. Speaker, you know me, Mr. Speaker, you are my good friend, and I had not noticed that there was change of guard. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I used to say that when you look at the East African Court, the East African Court normally rules on matters that had been dispensed with at the Supreme Court of the country. But when you look at the selection of those people who sit in that particular court, Mr. Speaker, they are not comparable to the Superior Court judges. So sometimes, Mr. Speaker, I think some rulings are upside down, because how can a judge who is of a superior, who is of an inferior position, rule again as a judge of the Supreme Court, who is of a higher ranking? Mr. Speaker, the same thing with the members to the Legislative Assembly of East Africa. Madam Speaker, we need to do a law that will allow members who go to that particular court, or those members who go to the assembly, to be members of high stature, because that assembly should be of high status. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I wish to say that what are our interests in EALA? Mr. Speaker, our interest in EALA is as stated by the functions that this EALA is supposed to perform. The EALA is supposed to liaise with the National Assembly and the partner states on matters relating to the community. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about the community of East Africa. The community is the countries which are within that particular scope. Mr. Speaker, that is the reason why I think when we are electing members to that particular assembly, we need to be like what the chair has said. The chair has stated that members who are making applications to this particular assembly, Mr. Speaker, in other countries, they do a presentation to the people who are selecting or to the people who are electing. We also need to change the rules so that the members who are applying or making applications to this particular assembly must also do a presentation, so that those people who are going to be picking them will look at their proper presentation. Mr. Speaker, the other function of this particular assembly is to discuss matters. Other than the question of approving budgets and all that, the other part which is very important, Mr. Speaker, is the discussion on matters referred to regarding the community and making recommendations as it may deem necessary to the implementation of the community treaty. Mr. Speaker, remember, treaties are very serious laws which actually guide the relationship between countries, between states. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I think the members who have been proposed to this particular selection, Mr. Speaker, are up to the task. I would say, even when we are doing other selections, Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that, Mr. Speaker, I wish you protect me from the interruption, and I wish to proceed by saying, Mr. Speaker, the names which have been forwarded to this particular House are members who we believe will go and represent our country properly. These are people who we think have good, credible, and reputations. These are members who have, some of them have been members of this House, some of them have been members of the Senate, some have been members of the society who've been practicing on one way or another. These are people, Mr. Speaker,
Sabina
it's a
Chege
good
on a point of
selection
order.
that we know.
Order, Honorable Joanna Ngeno, is on. What is out of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg your indulgence on Standing Order number 95. Mr. Speaker, we are aware as a House that we need to conclude this matter, and I can look at the House and I see we have a quorum. And Mr. Speaker, therefore, we need also this matter to be gazetted so that we are able to vote for the candidates on Thursday. So I humbly request the House that they allow the mover to reply so that we are able to abide with the timelines as per the regulations, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Yes, I will. I've noted your request, Honorable Sabina Chege, and the submissions accompanying it. Let me allow Honorable Joanna Ngeno to complete his presentations. Then I will seek the approval of the House in the direction you're seeking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that guidance. I was almost concluding, Mr. Speaker, and I was saying that when you look at the team which has been picked, Mr. Speaker, I wish the numbers would have been enough for all of them. When you look at the 15 from the other side, when you look at the other 15 from the other side, Mr. Speaker, I will tell you for a fact, all these people are qualified. They are very good people. They are good Kenyans. These are people who have served in one way or another. Some have served as members of parliament. Others have served as MCAs. Others have served as lawyers, advocates of the High Court. Others have served as business people. Others have served as good peers to members or to politicians. Mr. Speaker, these are very good people. I wish we would have had enough space for all of them. But because the space is not enough, Mr. Speaker, we are only going to pick the ones which we know are better than, not even better than the rest, but those who we think fits the bill. Mr. Speaker, as we are also picking, we also need to look at issue of gender representation, issue of ethnic regional balance, and all those other issues, Mr. Speaker. And given also that we in this House are represented regionally and gender-wise and all that, Mr. Speaker. So these members will sit and look at those people who fit that particular bill. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, as we are going to vote, I wish those members who will be picked to represent this country properly give us a good name and also legislate on matters that brings together the whole East African community. And most importantly, to pray for the country which is at war now and which has also lately joined the East African community, the Republic of Congo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Yeah, Honorable Sabina Chege has stood at a place to ask whether the mover should be called upon to reply. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? Mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. May I take this opportunity to thank all the members who have contributed. Thank most sincerely both members of both houses, Joint Select Committee. Thank our clerks who worked tirelessly. And on a personal level, I thank the presiding officers who also worked tirelessly to see this process complete. Honorable members, the timelines of this election is normally very, very strict. And for that reason, we need to gazette tonight so that we have the election on Thursday. With that, I wish to thank everyone, and Honorable Speaker, I move to reply.
I put the question that pursuant to the provisions of Article 50 of the Treaty of the Establishment of the East African Community and Rule 13, subsection 5 of the East African Legislative Assembly elections, election of members of the Assembly rules. This House adopts the report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members of the East African Legislative Assembly on its consideration of the names and nomination papers of the duly nominated candidates for election as members of the East African Legislative Assembly. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Order, members, order, members. I beg the members to say we put a question on order 9. On order 9. Order majority whip, freeze. Who is that walking out? Freeze. Members, because you are there, there is a question which was deferred for motion number 9. And so I also put the question that pursuant to the provisions of section 43, subsection 4 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund, Act 2015, and paragraphs 5, subparagraph 2, and subparagraph 10 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Regulations 2016, this House approves the list of nominees for appointment to the following 124 constituency committees of the National Government Constituency Development Fund as laid out in the order paper. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. As many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you. Next order. Deputy Speaker. There is an adjournment motion. An adjournment motion to be moved by the Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to raise this issue of grave national importance. Honorable Speaker, during the 12th Parliament, I presented a petition in this House drawing attention to the increase and prevalence of chemical pesticides in Kenya, which pose a risk to human health and to the environment and the larger biodiversity. The respective committee tabled the report of the petition. However, the resolutions of this House are yet to be implemented by the relevant bodies, particularly the Pest Control Products Board. However, therefore, this prevalence that continues is posing risk to various members of the general public. We know that we have a high incidence of cancer, high incidence of neurotoxicity in the country, which is a result of these particular pesticides. Honorable Speaker, concerned that about 76% of the total volume of pesticide used in Kenya have one or more active ingredients that are categorized as highly hazardous pesticides. Noting that these highly hazardous pesticides are a global human rights concern which are endangering inter alia the rights to food, health, and as well as the right to clean, healthy environment, and are regulated by international policy instruments to which Kenya is a state party with direct operational implications for pesticide management. Honorable Speaker, about 44% of the total volume of pesticides used in Kenya are not allowed for use in Europe and other jurisdictions, but the same for some unexplainable double standards are still allowed and permitted in Kenya. Further, the use of the pesticides in Kenya have not been accompanied with awareness to farmers and other users on their toxicity levels and application. Honorable Speaker, what is happening in the country amounts to criminal negligence and amounts to reckless endangerment of the Kenyan population by bodies such as the Pest Control Products Board. Honorable Speaker, it's noteworthy to say that the Superior Court of California in the United States awarded a farmer $250 million US dollars in damages for developing cancer as a result of repeated exposure to the Roundup herbicide manufactured by Monsanto. The court found that Monsanto did not make information on the dangers of this pesticide available to the public. The same Roundup is currently sold across our agrovets in this country. When it became public that Roundup was a dangerous product, the same agrochemical companies rebranded the product and called it under a different name. So it's still available in our markets today. Honorable Speaker, aware that the Pest Control Product Act, Cap 346 of the laws of Kenya, does not state environmental or human health or biodiversity laws as a concern in the registration process. Further aware that the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service has been contravening Section 15 of the Pest Control Product Act by failing to publish the available information on actual levels of the pesticides in food samples collected and putting in place a regular monitoring system. Honorable Speaker, noting also that the Pest Control Products Board has not been following the World Health Organization and Food and Agriculture Organization International Code of Conduct on pesticide management. Further noting that nothing has been done to ban or withdraw or any strategy developed to get rid from the Kenyan market these toxic pesticides. Further considering that the government, since the petition, my petition in 2019, has neither established nor strengthened the monitoring system on the use of the pesticide through the data collection on food samples in the market and the levels of pesticide contained. Honorable Speaker, aware that this problem of harmful pesticides and effects is closer to home than can be stated, the pesticide atlas that was recently launched by the Hedrick Ball Foundation, and many of you received copies, indicates that highly hazardous pesticides such as Roundup are in rampant use in the country. Incidentally, some of these areas have notable increases in cancer cases. Indeed, the highest rates of cancer are in crop production counties, particularly the Mount Kenya region. Most of these countries, such as Kirinyaga, have been forced to establish cancer centers to cater for the increased cancer incidence. This is not a coincidence. Research has shown that the highest use of the hazardous pesticides is in Kirinyaga County, and the highest prevalence of cancer is in Kirinyaga County. This is a question of a cause and effect. Honorable Speaker, noting that we are against a pharmaceutical industrial complex that especially targets developing countries, there is a collision between agrochemical countries, some in the developed world, and regulators in the developing countries. We know for a fact that our Pest Control Product Board has colluded over the years with the agrochemical companies to ensure that they continue to bring in this poison into our food through the pesticide business. Honorable Speaker, it's noteworthy to say that in 1970s, Kenya was producing 90% of the pyrethrum in the world, not in Africa, in the world. Today, systematically over a period of time, they destroyed the pyrethrum business in Kenya so that they could have a loophole to bring in the dangerous chemicals. Kenya is capable of producing pyrethrum and therefore be able to manufacture pesticides that are pyrethrum-based and are safer for our food. Today, Honorable Speaker, there are some companies within Kenya who are producing pyrethrum-based pesticides. But those pesticides, the safe pesticides, are only used by farmers who are exporting products to Europe because they cannot be permitted to use the hazardous ones and get their goods into the country. Today, the flowers that are sent to Europe, the horticultural products that are sent to Europe, use pyrethrum-based pesticides, safe pesticides. But for the local market, the dangerous chemicals are used. Today, if any exporter of flowers or any horticultural products takes their products to Europe and it is beyond the minimum residue limit as permitted by those countries, the container is sent back. That's how serious they are. But the same country allows in its laws that the banned chemicals may not be used in Europe and America. But their law allows for those chemicals to be manufactured in those countries for export to a country that is foolish enough to permit it. In this case, our country has been negligent and has allowed this to come into the country. For instance, I'll give the example. Last year and the year before, when Kenya was tackling the locust menace, the World Health Organization allowed the use of chemical sprays that contained compounds that are prohibited in Europe and other Western countries. I took the initiative to write a letter to the WHO office headquarters here at the United Nations Environment Program compound and also to Rome, They ignored my request, even though I made it clear to them that the pyrethrum-based pesticides that could be used to kill the locusts was locally available in sufficient quantities. Nevertheless, they colluded with those agrochemical companies that are selling the dangerous and hazardous chemicals into our country. I raised this on an issue of an official letter. These products are manufactured in Western countries, not for domestic use, but for export. Therefore, after the prevalence of cancer and related diseases, we still purchase cancer-treating medical equipment from the same countries. So they make us sick. Then they send us their equipment to treat our sickness. And then they make us buy their medicines, which they manufacture, to treat an illness that they themselves are creating. They are creating a vicious cycle and a market for themselves. It's against this background, Honorable Speaker, that I move the House to deliberate on this urgent matter of national importance with a view to causing the government to institute measures, among others. May I have extra time? I'm just about to finish.
I'll add you 2 more minutes.
Okay. And the measures we are requesting is 1, proposing amendment to the Pest Control Product Act Cap 346 of the laws of Kenya, or enacting a totally new law on pesticides to include environmental and human health or biodiversity as possible concerns during registration. 2, sanctioning the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEMFIS, and appropriate action taken towards the board and their management, including removal from office for contravention of Section 15 of the Pest Control Product Act by failing to publish the available information on the actual levels of pesticides in food and samples collected, and putting in a regular management process. Lastly, having the Pest Products Control Board sanctioned and appropriate action taken towards the board and management, including removal from office for their failure to follow the World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization International Code of Conduct in the management of pesticides. That the Pest Control Products Act be amended to include the list of pesticides highlighted and prohibited and banned and withdrawn from Europe and the United Kingdom. And in closing, Honorable Speaker, allow me to pay tribute to a very important woman who assisted me in this process. Her name is Evelyn Ogutu of the Hedrick Ball Foundation, a tireless warrior to protect our biodiversity. It is sad today to announce that she died 3 days ago while delivering twins at the MP Shah Hospital. My deepest condolences to her children and her husband, David Okembwa, and that I wish today she had been alive to see me do this today. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The condolences of the House are equally registered, and I'm sorry for the loss, Deputy Speaker. The MP for Suba North, the Honorable Millie Grace Odhiambo, Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to condole with my sister on the loss of her friend. I'm very sorry, especially that in this age and time, that a woman should die giving birth or giving life. It's unfortunate, and I hope that's one of the things that we'll be looking at. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to congratulate you. I've not had opportunity to do so for your new role. You are doing very well, and Homa Bay is proud. And thank you. Mr. Speaker, I just want to agree with my sister, the Deputy Speaker, on her sentiments, especially on the issue of the harmful effect of pesticides. And Mr. Speaker, if it weren't for the fact that she's bereaved, I would have taken her on a different target. But today, because she's bereaved and she's a good friend of mine, I'll be kinder to her. But I just want to say, and because of that, I'll limit the things that I'd intended to say earlier. But I just want to say, so that I don't go back and forth on a lot of these issues. But I want to say that for the longest time, we've been very careless in the way we expose our citizens to a lot of hazardous items in this country. From pesticides to the situation now where we are seeing fish dying in Lake Victoria, and could be also from harmful industrial waste. and we don't take that seriously. And Mr. Speaker, it is no wonder that we have a lot of cases of cancer. And it is not just in Kirinyaga. If you actually look at a place like in my constituency, Mr. Speaker, every time you go there, when I have a public gathering, there will always be a person coming to you with a case of cancer. Cervical cancer, breast cancer. The worst actually during campaigns, I think I've shared before the floor, was a woman who the public asked me to support. And because I think the woman didn't think I took the issue seriously, she came and undressed before the public so that I could see how badly it was. And I've never seen such a breast in my life. And the issue of even just access to the basic care when you have cases of cancer like that, yet a lot of them are preventable. When you look at countries like the US and other developed countries, you hear people saying, my mother died very young, my father died very young, how old? At 80. Yet the life expectancy in my constituency until recently was 37 years, Mr. Speaker, in this age and time. And again, as I'm saying, a lot of these things are very preventable. So I want to agree with my sister that we need to amend the law to take into account these harmful effects. But I also want to say that I do not agree that we actually remove the boards because it's not their fault. If you actually look at some of the things that are being said, there's a problem in the law. But there's also lack of coherent government policy. Because when you actually look at, I know some of us have been a little kind because we are saying the government is in transition, but you hear one person saying this, another saying this. Cabinet has not sat, but we have already approved GMOs. What is the impact of GMOs, for instance, in our own being? It could probably be the same thing. Have we looked at it? So we need to not also be too excited sometimes as government, but also we need to have coherent and very proper policy process so that we move away from roadside declarations when we are dealing with serious issues. Ordinarily, the law should follow the policy. But what we've been doing is the policy is now following the law. So we need to be clear what the government policy is on some of these issues, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, because I can see my time is up, I wish to support the sentiments and just indicate I'm a passionate protector of plants. I did plant genetic resources, intellectual property rights on plant genetic resources as part of my thesis for my master's at Nairobi University. Thank you, and I support. Of course, with the rider on the issue of removal of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Millie. Your thoughts are always valuable. Honorable Sabina Chege, nominated MP.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And on the onset, I want to really support my sister, is also condole with her, the friend and the family. Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Speaker has been very passionate about this matter. And I want just to register that this matter was brought before my Committee on Health, and I was the Chair of Health. We deliberated on the matter. It was in form of a petition. We involved several stakeholders, Mr. Speaker. But I'm sad, I'll not go through Millie's way, that even after this House passing resolutions and giving recommendation, nothing seemed to move. And Mr. Speaker, it is sad that we are the only country that is not selfish of its own citizens. I have been a farmer before, Mr. Speaker. If you are to export any food product out of this country, there's a limitation on when you should even spray the pesticide. There are very strict measures that are done. But Mr. Speaker, it is sad that sometimes the products that are rejected for export, even at the airport, those are the ones that find their way back to the market. So you'll find them being sold in the supermarkets, you'll find them being sold in our markets. And sometimes, Mr. Speaker, even the ones who would be protecting the so-called international, traders, the ones who are selling these pesticides, they will find them at the plate, because you never know. You don't know. You not know where either your wife, or even when you go to a supermarket, you would not know where that product came from. So the issue of traceability, Mr. Speaker, the issue of these pesticides, if they are rejected in other countries, why should Kenya be the place for dumping? And Mr. Speaker, we need to be serious about our citizens. It is sad that, Mr. Speaker, we are mourning death of loss of one of our colleagues' daughter who was 10 years old, who succumbed to cancer, Mr. Speaker. Cancer has touched each one of us directly or indirectly, either through a family member, either through a person that you support, either through even your voter, Mr. Speaker. And we must ask ourselves as a nation the hard questions. When did the rain start beating us? Why are we having so many cases of cancer in this country? Are there things that we can be able to control? Honorable Mili has mentioned about the fish dying at the lake. That is just an indicator of the worst things that are happening to us, Mr. Speaker. And so whether people need to move out of offices so that they can take life of Kenyans seriously, I would support. I would support, Mr. Speaker, that we must put life of our voters. Sometimes we are very happy when we're going to ask for their votes, but when it comes to protection of innocent Kenyans who will not be knowing what they're consuming, then we turn a blind eye. So I support, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to urge the government that this is the right time to crack the whip, Mr. Speaker, and make sure that the food that we are finding on the tables, whether from the market, supermarkets, that it should go through the same or similar scrutiny that we take through the products that we are taking out of this country. We must protect our own first before we even think about the commercialization, about the money that we are getting outside there when you're exporting products, but not keen on our own, Mr. Speaker. So I support, Mr. Speaker, and I pray that this House, whatever deliberation will be passed, and I don't know which committee really, Mr. Speaker, looks at the issues that are passed in this House. Because sometimes we take a long time, we deliberate, we research, we call the stakeholders, but after we pass resolutions in this House, then people get away with them. And I think we should have a mechanism, Mr. Speaker, of recalling the things that this House has passed, and people if they don't take action, then we should be the House that takes action, Mr. Speaker. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Just hold on, Honorable Sabina. Is the chair of the Committee on Implementation in the House? Because I remember this debate was raised by the Deputy Speaker in the last Parliament. Yes. And the debate was very passionate. It's unfortunate we are pursuing it, and the chair of the committee should be pursuing these House resolutions. Is not even present. Is the vice chair there?
He's a member.
A member of the committee is there?
A member.
Yeah, so she'll get a chance to speak. But take note. We want action from that committee in terms of implementation of House resolutions.
So thank you. As I conclude, I just want to urge the Deputy Speaker, Madam Sholei, that keep on the fight. Do not tire. Do not give up. I know sometimes there will be even offers that will come from the other side, but let us stand for the sake of lives of Kenyans and protect them. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to support this motion on adjournment by our Honorable Deputy Speaker, Madam Paul Sholei. That first, I want to congratulate her for the passion that she's followed this matter, despite the fact that it has not been, she's not been able to move far. But highlighting on it is actually one way of making people to be aware and the institutions concerned. Honorable Speaker, why haven't we moved? Because when you look at the impact of pesticides, you look at even herbicides, like paraquat, herbicides that are glyphosate, that are completely harmful. If you take a sip of paraquat, it will kill a human being. And yet the factories continue manufacturing it. We continue using it within our own system. One of our biggest problems, which we must be able to accept as a country, is that we are weak on legislation. There is no law on food safety in this country. And the Committee on Agriculture, I think, was trying to look at the law on food safety, and they've not even brought it into this floor. It is not yet, even for the pre-publication. And I want to call upon the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and the PS Agriculture and the Committee on Agriculture that this is a time to seize that we must be able to begin early and have a law on food safety, because food safety is a very important factor. Honorable Speaker, occasionally, most of us who go to Western Kenya, you drive all the way to Sokomchinga at the border of Nyandarua and here, and you look at the lorries carrying cabbages and sukuma wiki. That is not the way to transport food. And that food will end up in Nairobi, it will end up in your supermarket, and it will end up in your table, and you'll eat. That is not a hygienic food. We did not have proper packaging of food even in this country. We do not have even proper transportation. How do we transport even cabbages, leave alone anything else, even cabbages, right from where they have been done up to here. And even those cabbages, as you bring them from the farm, have we washed them to make sure that the chemicals have been washed off? Because when you spray these chemicals on the land, to spray the cabbages, or to spray the sukuma wiki, or to spray even fruits in the farm, what happens is the contents that are going to remain on the food before it reaches the market, we do not have a mechanism to ensure that this food that is reaching the market is safe for human consumption. Because there must be a mechanism to ensure that even by the time it is going to the supermarket, it has been washed to a certain level that it is safe for consumption. We'll pick it in even fruits which you go buy in the supermarket. They've been sprayed with the chemicals, both herbicides and pesticides. You go into the supermarket, you buy them, you even start chewing it in the car or on your way to your home. And that is how many people are going to get cancers. That is how many people are going to get other conditions, whether neurotoxic, whether hormonal diseases, whether genetic diseases. That's how we are going to transmit. So for me, I think where we need to begin as a country is to have a food safety law. Once we have that, we should also strengthen the pesticide control unit within the Ministry of Agriculture. When it comes to even, occasionally you'll hear people complaining that the sugar has some bit of mercury. They're complaining that the meat in the supermarket has been given a lot of preservatives beyond the normal. Then it is just for a short period. Then after that, people go back to their day-to-day consumption. They continue eating the sugar with mercury. They continue eating the meat that has been put more chemical preservatives. You go to the supermarket.
Give him 1 minute.
I was waiting for the warning, Honorable Speaker, so that I can be able to time myself. And thank you, Honorable Speaker, for being magnanimous to give me 1 minute. So, Honorable Speaker, I think we need to make sure that our regulatory laws are in place, and we must have an enforcement mechanism for those laws so that we can be able to ensure that whatever is harmful to all our people is preventable. And primary health care is the key way to go. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Asante sana. Mjumbe wa jimbo la Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Zamzam Chimba.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Kwanza nitoe rambirambi zangu za pole kwa dadangu Deputy Speaker, dadangu kipenzi Honorable Sholei, poleni sana. Na mjadala huu ambao umeuleta leo bungeni, kwanza natamaushwa sana. Tuna cases nyingi sana za kansa ndani ya Mombasa County. Kina mama wengi sana ukiangalia katika ile research ambayo ilitolewa, Mombasa ndio inaongoza katika haya masala ya kansa. Na mimi ningependa kuelezea kuwa vyakula ambavyo tunakula, vyakula ambavyo viko ndani ya supermarket zetu, ukiangalia hata yule kuku, wewe ukimchinja kuku nyumbani ukamweka mahali, utapata kama amenyong'onyea, lakini ule wa supermarket amefuriana, ni kwa sababu kuna zile kemikali ambazo zinadungwa. Na ukiangalia mashamba yetu siku hizi wakulima wananyunyizia kemikali ambazo ni kali sana. Na ndio maana tunaona watoto wakizaliwa, kina mama wajawazito wanapata watoto ambao hawaeleweki, watoto wana mapungufu ya maumbile. Kwa hiyo mimi ningependa kusema jambo hili, na zile sehemu husika, wahusika lazima waangalie kuwa waweza wakafanya sheria gani ambayo inaweza ikakontrol mambo kama haya, kwa sababu imekuwa sasa ni donda sugu ndani ya taifa la Kenya. Na mimi ningependa kusema kama alivyosema dadangu Sholei, ikiwa kama tulikuwa sisi tunatoa pyrethrum hapa nyumbani, kwa nini kampuni zetu ama factories zetu, viwanda vyetu vya hapa nchini vio vinafungwa kila siku? Wajua tukiwa na viwanda vyetu hata kule Mombasa tukipata kiwanda cha korosho, cha sukari, cha mnazi, cha nazi kule, badala ya kutoa nazi zinazotoka India, zinatoka China, hatujui kemikali gani zimewekwa ndani. Na mimi wasiwasi wangu mkubwa, kwa sababu pia ya watu wangu ndani ya Mombasa County, kina mama wana mitihani mikubwa. Kwa hiyo mimi ningependa kushauri kuwa hao wanaohusika kupitisha mambo kama haya, tuangalie sheria ambayo inaweza ikaeka vizingiti na kuweza kucontrol zile kemikali ambazo zinatumiwa katika mashamba yetu kwanza, na kisha hata KEBS waangalie kemikali gani ambazo zinatumiwa kwa vyakula ambavyo vinaletwa ndani ya supermarkets zetu. Sisi kama jamii tunanunua, tuna matatizo mengi sana. Kwa hiyo mimi ningependa kushukuru dadangu kwa mjadala huu, na niweze kusupport na niseme kwa wale ambao wamefanya mambo haya wachukuliwe. Naam.
Ni yupi mjumbe huyu anapita tu bila kwenda pale
Sijui mjumbe wa wapi?
Fanya kwa itikadi ya bunge. Huyu mjumbe ako mbele ya mjumbe Zamzam. Unaenda mpaka pale,
nenda ukaweze
upande huo.
Kumheshimu spika ndio uingie ndani, ndio itikadi ya bunge hili.
Tena ni mjumbe shupavu, mjumbe spika. Mjumbe wakili.
Akupe heshima zako kama spika.
Asante.
Bwana Spika, nikimalizia ningependa kusema zile idara husika katika mambo haya ya mbolea kutoka nje, lazima tuangalie tunaletea nini Wakenya. Tusifanye Wakenya kama wanyama, wanapewa kitu chochote, wanatupiwa kama mbwa kitu chochote wanaweka ndani ya miili zao. Hapana. La sivyo tutakuja kumaliza taifa hili kwa maradhi na magonjwa, na hao wanaoleta mbolea hizi kwao wamezikataa. Lakini mimi nafikiria ama ndo ile mpango ya kuweza kupunguza nambari za wananchi katika dunia, ndio maana tunaletewa Kenya matatizo yote yanabwagwa hapa. Mimi ningependa kusema idara husika ichukue hatua kali na tuweze kupatia Wakenya vyakula ambavyo viko sawa. Asante sana Bwana Spika, na mimi ni mjumbe wa Mombasa na kila siku nitatetea wananchi wa Mombasa. Asante sana.
Asante sana. MP for Laikipia East, the Honorable Mwangi Kiunjuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing to contribute to this very important motion before us, debate. And I thank the Deputy Speaker for moving it. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at what we are discussing today, and the health of our people, the suffering that we are going through as a country, and noting is that an issue of our negligence, because Pest and Control Board are professionals. It's a professional body with professionals, and I believe their first duty is to protect the rights of Kenyans. Today, Mr. Speaker, as we speak, they owe us duty. Equally, the same way agrochemicals companies and suppliers owe us duty of care to disclose and full disclosure on the effect of the pesticides that we are using. All over the world, Mr. Speaker, it is the duty of any manufacturer to ensure that they educate the users of their finished commodities on the dangers that can befall them. Today, if you look at Kenya, for example, cigarettes, we have every package with information warning that smoking is harmful to your body. If we can do that to our own entrepreneurs, our own factories in this country, why do we, Mr. Speaker, allow other foreign companies to come to Kenya, dominate us in our own territory with the knowledge of our professionals, with the bodies that are set to protect Kenyans to continue with these activities? Above all, Mr. Speaker, we are not talking of black market, whereby trade is being conducted without knowledge of the authorities. We are talking of chemicals supplied in this country. Our own institutions are aware of the dangers, and they have not even taken the simplest step, Mr. Speaker. Because, for example, it is not only how harmful the chemicals will be when you consume the product, but also from even applying. And that is why it is important, again, for us to discuss issues of extension. Do we have even Kenyans who are trained enough? Do we have them at the county level or national level who should be able now to even teach Kenyans how to apply these chemicals, even those that are not harmful? Because, Mr. Speaker, you get people spraying in their farms, no protection gear at all. There is no even issues of hygiene, what they should do after applying those chemicals. Then again, you get farmers spraying their vegetables in the morning, and in the afternoon, these vegetables get to the market. Do we have any food safety law? Because that is where we should start from. Again, are we even implementing the laws that we have today? It shows how we have neglected ourselves, our people, Mr. Speaker, and we continue blaming others. But now, Mr. Speaker, that we know the companies, they know themselves. Cases have been decided globally. But again, they cannot sell these products in their own countries. And even if they do so, they do it under supervision, and they adhere to the rules and regulations. But this is the only place you can come and dump. They don't care. They are not going to alert us on the dangers. They cannot educate us. There is no information about it. And the institutions that should do so, Mr. Speaker, and with the technology these days, because with even apps, even those people in the villages can be able to follow up the procedures laid down, Mr. Speaker. It is a high time that this House decisively come up with a law, ensure that laws are being formed, empower the implementation committee if it's not empowered, and above all, monitoring must be a must in this country. People are suffering, Central Province has suffered, the whole country has suffered, and it is high time we support, Mr. Speaker, and I believe that we shall have amendments that should be adhered to, followed, to ensure that we protect our people. I beg to support.
Thank you, Honorable Mwangi Kiunjuri. I know only a few of us remember you are the former Minister for Agriculture, and therefore you are speaking from deep knowledge about the subject matter. The MP for Nyeri Town, the Honorable Maina Madenge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion by our Honorable Deputy Speaker on the issue of pesticides in this country. And let me also congratulate you. My lucky star seems to shine whenever you are on the chair. You should see there more often. I get a chance to speak. However, it is sad that in this country, up to 42% residual pesticides is found on a very popular food, sukuma wiki, practically consumed in every household, right from State House to the rural colonial village in my county of Nyeri. In my constituency, literally every weekend, we are fundraising for cancer treatment, literally every weekend. And a lot of these people are people who have been working in the farms, especially those who are spraying pesticides on coffee and horticultural produce. And therefore, the Pesticides Control Board cannot escape censure from this House. They have been at the helm for quite some time. The question of inspection does not exist. The question of standards, Kenya Bureau of Standards, is also a culprit. The Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate, in terms of monitoring what is happening across the markets in our country, it is sad that in this country, no regulatory body is charged with controlling the quality of fertilizer that is supplied to our farmers. None. There is a complete gap. Yet we continue to claim that the way to go is to keep subsidizing farm inputs. In India, with the increased consumption of chemical fertilizers and increased production of food, cancer cases rose. As a result, very many Indian county governments have gone organic. And the use of simple biofertilizers, which can be produced by farmers on their farms, simple technology that can be passed on to our farmers, is available, which evidence shows has the capacity to reduce pesticide use by up to 40%. Yet we continue encouraging our farmers to go and buy pesticides. The issue of leukemia in children is directly linked to pesticide use. In Kiambu, where again pesticide use is very high, there has been reported cases of manhood defects in children. For how long can we as a house continue sitting here and turn a blind eye to the fact that we need to protect our people? And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge us not to hesitate. And the implementation committee must be given teeth. And maybe it is time that this House looked collectively at who sits in the implementation committee, that committee should be voted for directly as a committee of this House, so that they are answerable directly to this House in terms of what happens to decisions that are made in this House. Yet when they go out there, they have no takers. We cannot then continue claiming that we are the August House. We have people who are sanctioned by this House, yet we will find them occupying offices in this country and in government. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to support this motion. Thank you.
Mjumbe wa Jimbo la Migori, Mheshimiwa Fatuma Mohamed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. On behalf of Migori people, we are also farmers. We grow sugarcane and maize and the rest. But I think as Kenyans, we tend to measure on minus. When the government says that they're giving us cheap fertilizers, we are not even being told where the fertilizer is from, what chemicals are in these fertilizers, and if truly the government want to support the farmers, I believe the best way to do it, which at the end will also create job opportunity for our youths. Our youths are very bright youths. So many of us have gone through universities, and they can do these things at home and make for us the right fertilizers without any chemical, or if any chemical, very minimal. But the government is busy importing and reducing the price. Why don't we put that money into the hands of our youth through the right channel and tell our youths, be creative, create for yourself jobs, and then be able to sustain our economy by giving us good fertilizers so that our crops can grow. Right now, we are facing starvation. We are dying out of hunger. We don't have food. We are importing fertilizers. We don't have rain. What will the fertilizer do to us when we don't have rain? But we have our young people who are very energetic, very innovative, but they're not given opportunity to showcase what they have. So I would urge the government, we stop measuring on minus and do the right thing. When we talk of corruption, when you see a product coming in that is harmful to our people, where else do you place it? It is corruption, because how did it get in? The relevant authorities that are supposed to look into the products that come into the country are reluctant, or otherwise they are corrupt, and then these things come in. Fortunately or unfortunately, when these things come, it will not choose who to kill. It will kill my generation, the president's generation, the farmer's generation, the priest's generation. Everybody is affected. But but we take it very light. As Kenyans, I don't know what hub we are, because we used to be agricultural hub. We are no longer one. When we are saying our people are dying, it means agriculture is down. Tourism is down. Everything is down. But number one, when you cannot feed your people, then as a government, as a country, as a community, we have failed as leaders. So I request our government and our leaders, we have devolved, we have counties. A county like Migori, we have sugarcane. The waste product that comes from sugarcane can do very good when we make it into fertilizer. But it is thrown and it becomes a waste, it becomes hazard instead of being used. So I am requesting this government to take this thing serious. You can't turn us into beggars, that we are begging for food. In fact, that is the worst that a country should do, begging for food. While we have hands, we are not in war. Some countries have wars, they cannot go to their farms because bomb everywhere. But Kenya is a peaceful country. We can do farming right from the top to the lowest person. So I urge our leaders, let us concentrate on our youth, create job opportunities by giving them an opportunity to showcase what they can do for us to improve our situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Member of Parliament for Ruiru, the Honorable Simon Kingara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the onset, may I start by congratulating you for having that opportunity to serve us as a Speaker's panel team. And also, I want to remember the great people of Loiro who have given me an opportunity to serve them for the second time. Mr. Speaker, actually, it's very sad when we know what is eating us and not acting accordingly. And may I also thank our Deputy Speaker for this important adjournment motion, which actually should be maybe the first thing to discuss of, because if we are not healthy, we can't even be here. And it is very sad, Mr. Speaker, to note that not long ago, many diseases were not there. But now we have very many diseases which we have no cure. And it becomes very sad because of it being imported, and yet we have a Kenya Bureau of Standard. I don't know what standard maybe they look at, because as one have just said, the chemicals used in the horticulture, actually they are the lead for these unfamiliar diseases which are affecting even the skin. And maybe that's what leads to be cancer. Mr. Speaker, I said not long ago we had pyrethrum. I come from Kiambu County, where pyrethrum was a reed money for the exchequer through income and tax. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that train was killed. Why it was killed, we don't know. And yet, it could make a good pesticide, whereby we do not need to look for this new pesticide out there. Maybe, Mr. Speaker, sir, to begin with, I think we need first to put very strong legislation, especially on what pesticide can be made by Kenyans, let it be made by Kenyans. And actually, this will lead into many things. It will create employment, it will make our young ones busy, Mr. Speaker, and also it will improve our industries, because the product goes to the second level, where now it goes to industrialization. And then, in the long run, Mr. Speaker, we will be exporters rather than importers. And I think that should be the direction. Mr. Speaker, many people have talked of the causes of this strong pesticides which bring to unfamiliar diseases. But Mr. Speaker, I want to pose a question, maybe out of ignorance. Kenya is within what I would call a Commonwealth. And we should pick it from there, Mr. Speaker. If this pesticide is not used in the other part of the Commonwealth, why is it used in Kenya and more so Africa? I think it's our duty, Mr. Speaker, to come up with very strong legislations which can take care of our people, Kenyans, and even East Africa, now that we are talking of EALA. But the problem, somebody asked, where did the rain start hitting us? I think, Mr. Speaker, is execution. We come up with good laws, we come up with good bills, but do we execute? I think we should have a timeline. When something is discussed or agreed on through the process of this House, Mr. Speaker, let us work on how we can limit the time for execution. Because those many things which you have said, including the sentiment of our Deputy Speaker, of an issue which was brought sometimes back, where did it lie? Was it for here to be discussed and then be shelved? I pose that question in support.
Mjumbe wa Changamwe, ndugu Omar Mwinyi. Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And at the onset, I would like to congratulate you for having been appointed in the Speaker's panel. We are proud of you. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the Deputy Speaker for coming up with this idea. And I would like to point out, Mr. Speaker, about how our country is so reckless with its don't care attitude. Yet a country like Uganda, our neighboring country here across the border, is so keen on the protection of its people to the point that they never use fertilizers or chemicals in their trees or plants. And when you visit Kampala city, Mr. Speaker, you'll be surprised. In the city center, you may be looking for a chemist. It may take you 1 hour before you locate one. Yet in the city, the small town of Bigori, you may find 1,000 chemists. Every other shop is a chemist. The reason is Kenya is a sick nation. And this is the case in all towns of, in our country. The government agencies, Mr. Speaker, have people who are qualified, who are actually up to the task, but unfortunately there is what we call government interference. And the case in point, Mr. Speaker, is just 2 years ago when we had a shipload of maize at the port of Mombasa, and those who are responsible for doing the checkups and the investigation, the KEFIs and the public health officials were actually asked to step aside so that they cannot do their investigations and, of course, bring out their report. So if this is coming from the government, then it shows our government is not keen on protecting its own people. Mr. Speaker, it should actually come to our notice that of late, cases of diseases which have very far-reaching effects on our health, such as cancer, is on the rise. And this is something that should actually worry us, because it is not only affecting the poor, but it is affecting everybody else. But more so, it is unfortunate that those who are less fortunate bear the brunt, because they cannot afford the treatment of cancer, which is as a result of government inability to let its own officers to do research on all these products that come our way so that our people can be safe. I want to laud the sentiments of the Nyeri Town MP that some of these products find their way to State House, like Sukuma Wiki, because Sukuma Wiki is consumed everywhere. The other thing that, of course, is a problem, Mr. Speaker, is the idea of making quick money. We sometimes do not mind about the health of our people because we can make a kill whenever such products are coming into our country. So we have hazardous chemicals and diseases which are detrimental to our health, and of course, make us to be less productive, and this country definitely can never grow and measure up with those developing countries. Mr. Speaker, we also have insecticides in our homes. They are applied every day, on an everyday basis, to kill mosquitoes and cockroaches. And you'll find somebody spraying the room and then sleeping in the next half an hour. Definitely, we are inhaling dangerous chemicals, and this is also a problem to our health. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we are signatories to very many international treaties, yet we are not even adhering to simple rules of making sure our people are safe. So may I congratulate the Deputy Speaker for coming up with this important business of the House. But as we can see, the new government has already implemented the use of GMO without even a cabinet decision. You can imagine how our country is put at risk by our own government. So I think we better get our government to put its house in order. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support this motion.
The MP for West Mugirango, the Honorable Stephen Mogaka, Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Speaker. And one more time, thank you for being vigilant as Speaker and corrective of us newcomers to the House. I want to add my voice to this pesticide issue in this country, because we have a very high rate of fatalities attributed to pesticides. My constituency, West Mogrango, for instance, is surrounded by tea estates which use a lot of pesticides, and even the employees who are made to use the pesticides have no protective gear. As a result, this country is facing a health crisis, particularly for the illiterate workers of the major tea estates who have just to get a living out of exposing themselves to high dangers in the plantations. Besides that, the animals, livestock, sometimes when these pesticides are applied and the animals are going around grazing, many of the animals get sick or even die because of the careless application of the pesticides without warning. Pesticides are poisons, Mr. Speaker, and every poison or medicine in this country is prescribed and has warnings of the dangers that anybody who comes into contact with it suffers. We have skin diseases, Mr. Speaker, that are contracted out of contact of human beings or even animals with pesticides. I want to add my voice, and on behalf of the people of West Mogrango, we call for an urgent law that will regulate the management, application of pesticides in this country, not to mention that those which are applied on food and brought to the market and consumed pose a great health hazard to the people. Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Member of Parliament for Marsabit County, Dr. Naomi Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion, as I also congratulate our Deputy Speaker for bringing it again to the House for the second time. It's unfortunate that it did not get much attention during the 12th Parliament. I also condone with her as I stand, and it is my prayer that God will comfort the family of your friend. Mr. Speaker, I support this motion from the onset on the harmful effect of pesticides. As many of my colleagues have already contributed, we know that through these pesticides, our people or the citizens have suffered in many ways. This has negative effect on soil, on water, on vegetation, and on human beings, and even on the wild animals. And that is why today, as a country, we have so many challenges
especially when it comes to cancer patients in our country. And that has affected every part of this country. Although, of course, the level or the number of the people from different counties differ, as far as Marsabit County, we have suffered and we keep losing lives as a result of this. And what is present in one county affects even the other people in another county. Mr. Speaker, I don't know why, as Kenyans, we have not been very careful on what our citizens take or consume. As we all know, prevention is better than cure. We would have prevented most of the problems that we are facing today. But unfortunately, we've not given it attention. Or the love of money has led us into all these problems. And today, every member of parliament knows the challenge that we go through, because almost every weekend we raise money in order to help somebody who is suffering from either cancer or another terminal disease that was as a result of pesticides. And as we all know, that this is indirect poison that people take in. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is dangerous for us to continue with this. And as we have the board, the pests and control board in place, I would want to say that we have been badly exposed in the past, and they should take the necessary controls measures in place so that we can be able to avoid more problems in future. Unless we get serious and have the laws in place and have all the necessary systems in place, our people will continue perishing, which will not be good, because the effect of this is beyond what we can do today as a country. We have already lost a lot, and we need to get into the recovery stage, whereby I know it will take us some years to recover, but it is good for us to get on it and see how we can save lives. I support this motion, and I congratulate our Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, honorable members, for the interest in the motion. Honorable members, and the time being 7 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Wednesday, the 16th day of November 2022 at 9:30 a.m.